Looks like the chat's full already. Thank you very much. Here we go. Buster.
Confidence in the things that I know. I have enough wisdom to see the logic will be shown. I got one chance to show you what I got. I got one chance to show I'm confident or not. Self-evident reason, deductions and conclusions, and the fools are running away. It's not what you say, it's only what you can prove. You better watch your step, you better mind your P's and Q's. You got one chance, show me what you got. You got one chance, show you confident or not. Don't get caught in the matrix of all of these fakers. Society's spinning, and I'm just here living on the ground. Self-evident reason, deductions and conclusions, logically thinking, and the fools are running away. You're flipping over backwards to show me where you think you are. Your model dictates that you never see too far. Shrinking in the distance, you can do fuck all with an angle, and the fools are running away.
And we are live. Welcome everybody coming in. Thursday night, Euclid night. Not really got much to do. I'm a bit embarrassed from yesterday. Ravens outdid us all yesterday. So I don't really know where to follow with that, other than go back to the basics again. Yeah. Buster song, one of the best. One chance. Might be some live stuff coming soon this weekend, or maybe just after. Might be some practice stuff this weekend.
Yes, for sure.
That'll
will be.
do.
I'll have to do it by myself, but there will be a practice session. It'll be rough, but yes.
So, yeah, come and join us this weekend in Discord.
Good afternoon.
Hey, Rob. Good day. Good day, everybody. I've got a bit of stuff for us to go over, but I mean, let's go over last night's stuff, really. Trivium. There's been a few people in the chat.
Yeah, thanks, Raven. That was really cool of you to do that.
Yeah. there's been a few people in the chat, maybe globe scientists, that are keen on, I don't know. I mean, how can you fault what we went through last night? It's just the fundamentals of understanding. I mean, who could not want to get in on that? The globe scientist, that's it. Yeah, there's been a few people, but I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that was fantastic last night. That was just what we wanted, and that's what we've been building up to. Yeah, yesterday was amazing. But what it showed us was, in order for us to have an understanding of what we are talking about, we need to have the fundamentals. That starts with grammar. The understanding of the identity of the thing that it is you're going to be talking about. That needs to be understood clearly. It needs to be given symbols to make it an understandable thing that everybody can agree on. From there, we use logic. We place these things together in a structured way to end up with a conclusion. Very clever way, but it involves the mind, that part. So you use, all of them involve the mind in the first bit, but you need to be able to know what it is you're talking about, then be able to make some sort of a statement about that thing that leads you in a progression forwards. And then the rhetoric is how you do that, how you describe all of that sort of thing. So that's basically the trivium. I mean, it goes into way more depths and into that. Go on, Essie.
No, I was just going to take the opportunity to shout out Raven's Eye, now that he's undeafened.
Hi there.
That was really, really good last night, bro. Really good.
Thanks a lot.
Especially when you went to the organon, I go, yeah, this guy knows what he's talking about.
So what issues are they having in chat?
They you know, they like to say it's the basics, it's the fundamentals, so therefore school child sort of stuff, you know.
Oh, it's beyond them.
Yeah.
It's beyond them because they're way past that already, I suppose, aren't they? Well, that's fine.
Yeah, they've already come to the paralogisms. Yeah. They have their own.
If they want to come and have a chat about it, join the server and we can have a chat, and they can educate us in their ways. But starting from the basics, what's wrong with starting from the basics? What's wrong with bringing in your grammar, your logic, and your rhetoric at a level that's understandable for people, so that we can educate ourselves and bring ourselves up. I don't see that anything is out of bounds. It's not secret knowledge that shouldn't be shared. I don't see, and if they think that they're not at a level yet, that they think that we're not at the level that they can have a conversation with us, then obviously, they'll have to wait until they feel that we're at a level that we can understand what they're talking about. But it'll be interesting to see how that conversation develop, don't you think?
Absolutely. I couldn't talk yesterday, but I liked, especially because I heard it over on YouTube, and I like especially when you when you made the connection between the upper class being taught certain things and the rest of the, shall we say, the peasants, for a better word, lack of a better word. Yeah.
Well, I would just say one thing about it. If they say that it's fundamentals, that it's rudimentary, whatever they would say, I would say these things that were taught ages ago is where the best architecture came from, the best music came out of people being taught this system.
Yeah, very true. It is what's brought. It's what brought the best of the culture that we had. Came from this, and to try and belittle it and to put it down as if somehow the fundamentals are only, are too simple and too unimportant and not necessary. It just shows at the stage that they're at, I think, and the level of confusion that they've got, that they don't understand why getting back to these fundamentals are so important. And it just saddens me, really, because there's so much potential for us to build upon this stuff, and to get that kind of reaction, I think, is very sad, but not unexpected. I don't know if everybody would agree with that. I mean, like I was saying, the work that SE's brought to us in the past, with some of the work he's brought about how the education system developed and how the Prussian system was developed, and some of that fascinating information about how we got to where we are now with education.
That was Buster. Sorry to interrupt.
Was that
was
Buster? Sorry.
I brought that to my attention. Yeah, shout out Buster.
Right, okay. Yes, I shout out Buster for that, because, and I know that Buster's done a lot with his music and the cymatics and the architecture and all of this wonderful stuff that came from this trivium and this quadrivium, and I don't see why we shouldn't be allowed to partake in that knowledge. And I'm sorry, but I think it's an unstoppable force now. We're here and we're going to do it. Join the conversation if you want, or don't. It would be nice to have people along who are willing to join us in the journey. I don't know if everybody else, that's the way that everybody else feels about it. That's how I feel.
Yeah, advanced simplicity. If you don't understand it, we'll go back a step or two until we do.
Mm. Yeah.
There's got to be some starting point that we can agree on somewhere.
Yeah. True.
So thank you very much for last night.
No, it's fine. I'm looking forward to working on the rest of it with everybody, and let's get working and developing and moving forward. And I'm looking forward to the opportunity. It's Logic night tonight, isn't it? Is that what we're doing?
It's Euclid night tonight. So
Euclid night. Sorry, it's Euclid night.
I mean, it's all the same, like you've just explained, right? It's all of this is how you explain things. The trivium is how you start off with it, with the words and the logic and all of that, and geometry is just implementing it into space, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
So mainly, what we're talking about tonight, I'm hoping, is the geometric argument that's based within logic, because you can't have geometry in Euclid without the formulation of the logic to give us the conclusion at the end. The proofs that Euclid is built up in. It's just a way to explain what is through geometry, and geometry to me is a way to explain logic. It was wrote down in a way, hopefully, that people learn logic from that, the way it's wrote out. Now, when I see here, most people think geometry, they're just thinking lines and shapes, but there's a lot more to it. There is like I say, the logic behind that, but the logic starts, and the whole book starts from definitions, and the definitions within that Euclidean book of geometry is the trivium, like Ravens said yesterday. You have to start off with an understanding of the words, and then you can use those words and build them up through the logic to come to some sort of a conclusion at the end. Well, the rhetoric within geometry is sort of taken out, I think. I suppose it could be shown. I don't know. It's hard to explain that.
I was gonna say that a few minutes ago that the grammar and I would think that the like Euclid's geometry was just the grammar and logic. I don't see the rhetoric there. I was gonna say the exact same thing. That's
Yeah.
Because the rhetoric I haven't got to go back and get that part of the presentation, but the rhetoric I was always understood as a way of, like, I guess by lack of a better term, convincing, using the correct grammar and logic in a way to convince.
Yeah, but you could use
or explain.
Yeah, you could
Yeah.
use words in order to explain in a more efficient way. And that could be called rhetoric.
It's how you're going to get the like within geometry, you've got your proofs. You have to communicate those proofs. So that's all to do with rhetoric. That's all to do with how you're going to communicate. I know in Euclid he goes through the proofs, doesn't he? And you've got to be able to communicate those proofs to another person so that they understand it. It's to do with how do you get to make sure that they understand that proof that you've got within the geometry. And then it's taking it beyond that geometry now into the reality of space, which is why it finishes with, I think I've got the order a little bit the wrong way around. It does finish with, you get the music, the arithmetic, or the music, and then you get the geometry and then the astronomy, which is the space. So you're taking that geometry out and those proofs that you've developed, and then you need to be able to communicate those out to explain things like your, when you start looking at your kinematics and these wider things to do with architecture and with the form and the construction of Buster, you've looked at the at things like the big the Notre Dame cathedrals and the shapes and how the resonance was built up, and there's more to it's not just dry, as far as I see it, it's not just dry geometry on it. You're taking these truths out into the reality. And that's where the rhetoric, I think, comes in. It's to do with communication. It's all communication, isn't it? It's communicating those reality truths. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
I think I know what Buster means because it's pictorial in a sense, right? Lines and that. But without the rhetoric... Sorry, go ahead, Buster.
No. It was just I don't have the this is why I love this so much, because I have wanted to delve into this more, but as far as my limited knowledge of rhetoric, it was just like you have the grammar and the correct ways to structure your sentences, but the rhetoric would be structuring your sentences in a way that someone else can grasp what's being said.
That's it.
That's exactly it. Yep.
Yeah. Right.
It's making sure that we're communicating clearly between two human beings, two brains, two different minds, to making sure that we come together and see the reality. So that's where I see the rhetoric. Rhetoric's had a bit of a track record recently, hasn't it, over the last few hundred years, where it's turned into this argumentative type of show that goes on. But that's not the way. I don't see that as true rhetoric. And I'm hoping that as we work through the grammar and the logic, and then when we finally come to the rhetoric, because the rhetoric is the final point where you're pulling together, your grammar and your logic, and then the rhetoric is the most important part, really, because that's where we're going to build on how we're going to communicate these truths. And hopefully, by the time we get to that stage, we'll have worked enough of the basics to get a good grasp then of the rhetoric and how we can construct these rhetorical conversations that we're going to have. So it's going to be part of the journey. But like all these, we said yesterday, didn't we, that all of these things can be used. It's a two-pronged thing that can be used for good or ill. You can use them to benefit mankind and other human beings, or you can use to obfuscate, to hide, and to become sophists. You make your choice. But to me, there's nothing bad about rhetoric. It's just got a bad rap because of the way it's been developed over the past couple of 100 years. And I do think it's probably as short as a couple of 100 years. I think that the rot has really set in. I don't know if everybody else sees it that way. That's how I see it.
I'd say less than that, 150.
Yeah.
You know what caught my attention with the trivium? One sentence. Have we come to terms?
Yeah.
That says it all right there.
I'll give you one. Buster, he's just gone to work, but he came before. I don't know whether you heard it, Ravens, and about words.
No,
and
I've been busy.
He said with gravity has come from gravitas, which is the
Yes.
weight, giving weight to an argument. I suppose with extreme rhetoric, right? Or some person being able to give weight, right, to an argument. Well, he said, could that be the same as the gram from grammar, like the weight of the word?
Yeah, there's a possibility. It would be interesting to be looking at the grammatical and the etymological sources of. I think it was Kevin that said yesterday, wasn't it, about the importance of getting back to the original language and the original meaning of these words, looking at the etymology of some of these words to see the links and the connections between them.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting path to go down, and these are all areas I'm really excited and fascinated to try and explore with everyone. I'm sure people have got so much to bring.
Have you heard the word organon before I mentioned it?
Yes.
And you heard it through this, right? Through the exploration of the trivium?
No, I've come across the word organon before because it's been used by other people. I think the chap that developed homeopathy wrote a book called The Organon. I'm sure his work was called The Organon as well, which means it was basically meaning the same thing, the great work type of thing. But it was the trivium, this aspect of Aristotle's work, as far as the organon came to me through looking into Aristotle and to Plato. That's what led me to the organon as a set piece of work.
Yeah, and I think it was Aristotle that first mentioned it. I think.
Who?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Who first mentioned it?
I think it was Aristotle.
Yes, I think it was Aristotle. Because Hahnemann, who invented homeopathy, he was a lot later than that. 18th or 17th century.
Very fascinating organon, yeah, very fascinating.
The organon itself, when I looked into that and the way it works, I could see the logic of why that would be the starting point, I think, of a lot of this work. Aristotle was, I find him quite fascinating, and his work quite fascinating as well. Had you come across the organon before then, or has it always been related to this work with the philosophers?
No, the first time I came to that word was when I was researching trivium, because it didn't make sense to me, because it sounded Latin to me. But the rest of it sounded like ancient Greek, ancient Rome.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's what led me down the path.
Yeah. Yeah, to the source of it, where it all originally came from.
Yeah, and that's when I found out that trivium means the meeting of three roads.
That's right, yeah. And obviously it became Latinized later on, didn't it, during the later period where where the 7 liberal arts got split in and categorized as trivium and quadrivium. Obviously,
that's Latin. Yeah, trivium and quadrivium. That's sheer Latin. Yeah.
Yeah. So it became Latinized. That's all. The great work ahead.
Yeah, kudos to you, bro. You opened up a whole new avenue for us. Nice, very nice find.
Yeah, thanks very much, and I just hope that it's an enjoyable journey, no matter what the cost.
Well, it seems to be having triggering effects already. Just the simplicity of it. I mean, this isn't difficult. Anyone can come and do this. So the fact that some people still can't come and talk to us about the simplicity of what we're dealing with is
and the thing is, you see, they come talking about this is all the basics, it's all simplicity, it's all too simplistic. As if somehow that I'm going to find that some kind of offensive, but I don't, because it doesn't matter where we're coming from. You have to start at the basics. And just because you haven't been educated in a particular system, or you haven't come across it before, then you have to start at the beginning. There's no shame in that. No shame at all. You know, if they feel that they know all that already, then fair play to them, you know.
Yeah, there's no shame. I'm very glad you brought that up, bro.
Yeah.
There's no shame in saying I don't know. I never heard about the trivium until you brought.
Yeah.
There's no shame in saying that.
Yeah, there isn't.
You can't know everything.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
No, so they can throw the comments around and the ad homs around and all the rest of it, but it doesn't take away from it. I'm not afraid to say that I don't know something. And please join me on this journey of discovery. That's all I would say.
Yeah, if there's something we've missed, come and tell us.
Yeah.
Come and let us know. If you think there's something, that we have missed and you know better than, or we've made a mistake or something, come and have a discussion about it. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
That's
the only way we learn.
Yeah.
The only way we learn.
And I like it. I learn from just about every conversation I ever have. There's something to be learned.
There is.
Somewhere.
You just have to be open. Open your mind to other ideas. That's all it is. So.
A walk along the prom in Blackpool. Nice one, Paul. Nice weather today. Better be getting nice this weekend. Oh. So in the because I'm thinking now everything we have to refer to the simplicity of everything to just to nail home this whatever it is we're dealing with, the trivium and the understanding. So step one, I'm here because I have a statement that says level is horizontal. Now, the other side, the people who argue with us, say, no, it's a circle. Now, that's the simplicity of the argument. Get it down to that. Is level a straight line, or is it not a straight line? If it's got a curvature to it, it has to have a curvature to it in the downward direction, because it just wouldn't make sense if it was in the opposite direction. Can only be horizontal, really, logically. But there's still an argument that says it curves. Now, as far as I've seen, there is definitely no geometric proof of this curving level, circular level. And there's no logical sense about it. So there's no grammar to support it really either. Well, maybe some sort of closely guarded secrets of McToonery are the only sources of the curved level. So there's no geometric proof, there's no logical statement that can be made to show that level might be curved. And there's no real grammatical, apart from one which we should go over really within understanding of words, is the Merriam-Webster. That's all we've got. Somebody says in the chat, we're not looking carefully enough. Thank you very much. Whether it's straight or curved. It's a very easy understanding, because the ones that say it's curved have a definite number that they have to live by. Now, where that number comes from, who knows? A misunderstanding about lights in the sky and an angle measurement is the only basis they have for well, an angle measurement, really. Yeah, the show's titled, please don't get upset. Try not to get upset. We're just talking about straight lines. The fact that straight lines needed to form a circle, there people still have a misunderstanding, the geometric understanding, the logical understanding. Uh-oh, I've got somebody triggered in the chat. Come and join us. Click on the link. Come and have a chat. We're talking about straight lines. Now, we went over a picture. I got it in the chat. Let me get this again. Copy. No. This is a picture we got taken from oh, it says up there, Blue Marble Science, Globe Science channel, and he has a misunderstanding of what level is, level being horizontal. In the bottom picture, you might be able to see he's got 3 different horizontal planes in the space that they're in between A and C. There is a horizontal plane, but then he has 2 other imagined horizontal planes at an angle to it, 2 sloped horizontal planes that are intersecting at point B. So he has one horizontal plane that goes from A to C and 2 other horizontal planes. Here, slope and a slope.
Wow.
I don't know whether I can get it any bigger. No. That's I don't know how to explain that. I mean, if you don't understand and don't see what's going on there, it shows you, well, I don't know. What's your understanding of horizontal? Because if you can have 3 horizontals in the space where there could be well, how many horizontals are there in any position that you're at?
Is it just my eyes, or does one look like a teepee or a hump?
Yeah, there's definitely, he's put an imagine hump right in the middle.
Okay,
2
I thought it was my eyes.
sloping levels. Now, I mean, Blue will say that he doesn't mean slope like that, but I mean, they are 2 points. You've got 2 points. If you imagine A to C is one set of 2 points, and you've got one line. Then you put an imagined position spot in the middle. I would put it on the same one, like in the top picture. That's the way I'd deal with water level.
Well, yeah, that's the correct, definitely the correct way.
Yeah.
The only
That's
way.
how all diagrams are illustrated that way.
All elevation profiles exactly the same, especially when you're talking about water levels, canal elevation plans, any building elevations.
Yeah. Can you imagine one at the bottom being the explanation of a canal?
Yeah. Would that be unclamped? Spot on?
The question would be,
Untangled.
how would you measure it if that were the case? I mean, which horizontal do you use to reference your verticals from?
Well, it depends which fantasy you want to explain at the moment. You want to
What
explain
happens
a
if you
drop
put-
or a hump?
Hmm.
I'm gonna.
Yeah,
go
because
on.
if they're saying that B is higher in the middle, it's higher in the middle at B, sorry. Then if that was a horizontal line across the top, the two endpoints would be lower than the horizontal.
There's your drop, and the center is your hump. Voila.
Whereas at the one at the top, everything is equal. So on the same level. It's quite
Like
simple.
in reality. Yeah.
Just getting me whiteboard sorted out.
Nice.
Right, now I'm going to hopefully try and explain how ridiculous this is. I don't know. I'm freestyling it, so bear with me. You guys need a webcam, don't you? Video, wait a minute.
Oh, we got a vertical is local man in the chat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Always local, mate. Always.
Yeah, always. That's where you use the tools. Where you are. Every time. Is that coming up? No. New PC's playing us about. Is that working for you guys or not?
We got a purple screen. I've got
Spinny blobs.
plain screen. Just nothing going on.
No, there's no.
Is that better yet or not? No.
Nope.
No, we just see your icon.
It's a nice icon, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give him that, yeah.
No, it doesn't look like I can get virtual webcam going. Oh, it might be Discord settings.
You might have to change device or.
Wait a minute.
Has the camera worked on anything else though? Have you had the camera working?
I'll just put it on the. Yeah, I can get it working. The guys on YouTube can see it. And let me just see whether I can sort out Discord.
If you can't, then we'll just look on YouTube. Save you figuring it out right now. I know you have to figure it out at some point, but
yeah. Well, how do I get to my settings?
The cog.
User settings. There you go. Just have to mess me settings about, so bear with me. You guys can't see it. No, it doesn't look like it's. Oh, wait a minute. There you go. Just needed fixing up. That's working now for you guys, right?
Yep. We're in business.
Okay, right. So you guys can see, everyone on YouTube can see.
Yeah.
Right. Now,
Go check that.
we've got a straight line that we claim 2 points, one to the other, pull tight, taut, straight line. No deviation. That's a deviation. That's a deviation. A straight line. Straight line. So, the claim is that there is a hump or a raise in the middle. So if this is the straight line, do I get that? Oh. If this is the straight line, then the deviation from the straight line would be a raise. Can you see that? Is that good?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's very good.
Okay. Now, the claim is that if we call this one A and this one C, and then we'll call this one B. See those letters there, yeah? Oh, paralogism. But to do that, because I keep spelling it wrong, or keep thinking it wrong. So, if this one is horizontal from here to here, the claim is that this side here is also horizontal, and this one here is also horizontal, as claimed by Globe Earth Science. Big Blue. But what I always thought was, because they imagine, right, although there's 2 points, A to B, so that is a straight line, and you've got B to C, that's also a straight line, but they don't imagine it's a straight line. They curves, they have curves everywhere. So it's actually a curve, what they imagine is this high point here. So what they say is, Proposition 16 in Euclid's book 3 states that at every point, a line, a straight line, like that. If you have a straight line, not very good magnets, and it touches this at one point, this will be perpendicular to the radius line. To this line, wherever this line touches, if you move this line over here like that, wherever that one touches, it will be perpendicular to the point that it touches along these bits. So they say there's a perpendicular there. Now that perpendicular, so if I put this back down here, let's say that, what's there, and these ones come down here, and that one, something like that. So what you see here is that this point here where it's perpendicular is this one here that we call a tangent, that they want to call a tangent. But the strange thing about it is that it's parallel to this one. This line here that's horizontal from C to A to C, is also parallel to this one here that they say is the horizontal where the point is at the centre.
Only at the center.
Only at the centre. Well, that's why it's parallel there. But these two lines that are horizontal, and these two, this one here that Blues decided to put in from B to C that isn't horizontal, and then this one here this one and this one, they're not horizontal. They're the ones that Blues put in there. Now, is there this distance between them? This imagined point that Blues put here, and this one that is the horizontal from point A, from C to A. This distance here, I'll give it to you, only exists in the mind of the glober. The water does not rise from here to here. And like you say, if you take this line from here to A to C, and this line, this distance here, it doesn't exist. You can't have water being at a higher, this point here is definitely higher than this line that goes as a horizontal from A to C. I'm not too sure how. Might be better if we pull that one a bit further down there. Bring those down there. I mean, all you'd have to do for this, really, is just put a bigger distance from here to here. Because that's what Blue does. He has Lake Pontchartrain. Jesse Kozlowski showed Blue that this line here, if you make this distance from A to C 23.7 miles, then this distance here can be 90 feet. 99 0 feet.
A 9-story building of water.
A
More or
90-foot hump. That's higher than this point and this point. Impossible. Way beyond the cavitation point of water. None of this exists. This goes down there. That's the horizontal. Horizontal. Straight line from A to C, and B, all points in between A and C will be on the same horizontal. Call it the horizontal paradox. Nearly slipped then, didn't I? It's just a horizontal paradox. Can't get away from it. Even the globers have every point horizontal. That's the only place where you can have every point horizontal is along a horizontal line. If it's curved, it's not horizontal, is it? Can't be.
Yep. I was trying to explain to some people today that they don't need to go up in the stars to prove what they're trying to prove. This right here is the best single argument, water. There's no way around it. Absolutely no way around it.
Yeah. Ridiculousness of doing that. I'll just lift that up there. Because you have to do that with every water level. Every water level, like this one here, from here to here, has to have an imaginary bit that's higher in the middle. Which is ridiculous. Because that's all this is. It's imaginary. The water level has one end, and you're after trying to find it and equal it with the other end. No, nobody cares about what happens in the middle. I mean, look at how much water level there is here in the middle. Like, what would be the use of having that there in between these 2 points? I mean, it's ridiculous.
Simplicity, sheer simplicity at work. Anybody could easily understand this. There's no hump and there's no drop. Period. I challenge anybody to come in here, anybody, I don't care whoever you are, and argue that. I will accept a debate from anybody on this topic. Anybody. I don't care if you're a professor at the biggest college in the world.
There's no... as soon as you put geometry into the mix, there's no debate. I mean, where do you go? I think we've proved. People don't want to come and talk about this. This is a very simple logical argument that involves geometry to show that this doesn't exist. We feel dirty just drawing it, to be honest. But I mean, at least they are straight lines, right? At least I found a way without drawing curves. Parallel lines. So easy. Easy as A, B, C.
Simple.
Yep.
Water. I've been using it for years. Skateboard paradox. Double boat paradox. And now we have this. A straight line paradox.
And we've got Blue to thank for it as well.
Yes, thank you, Blue.
Blue showed that this line here, he thinks is horizontal. He thinks this one here can be horizontal, but he also thinks this one here can be horizontal too.
Yeah.
He just has to write on it horizontal plane and put an arrow to it, and that somehow might make it a horizontal plane. But I mean, how could it be? How can this one be horizontal as marked in Blue's drawing, and this one here, and this one? Don't think you can.
This argument should be in every flat earther's lips. Every one of you.
Look, I've got some arguments about it in now. We've got the wrong argument for somehow. The argument for you, if you're listening in or whatever, if you imagine a curve, then this here, that line there would be what you'd call a tangent, and guess what? It's parallel to this one. The tangent at the one that you imagine in the centre of where you imagine it is parallel to the one that you imagine from the total length all the way along. It's just whether you go with the Blues gap here. Because what they have...
You go to La La Land.
They have
That's
this as a two-dimensional surface, and then they have this as a straight line. So you've got a 2D plane, a tangential plane, that's parallel to another 2D but in the middle of it, they've got a 2D imagined surface. Sandwiching. 2 horizontals. That's amazing, isn't it? How they can imagine this 90-foot hump. 90.
90.
90 foot. That's
90.
if you make this distance 20.
Imagine getting on an elevator and pressing, let's be generous, like even the 7th floor. Let's give the floor some height. 7th floor, please. Ding. That's where your water level is. Ridiculous. Just ridiculous.
Uh, 90 feet hump. Yeah, I guess you guys do have better imaginations. They're bragging in the chat. I would definitely agree. You have an amazing imagination if you can imagine a hump of 90 feet in the middle of Lake Rakia. So that's ridiculous argument number 1 that we have here. Geometrically based, and very simply geometrically based, this one. There's 3 points, A, B, C, and how many straight lines can you have if you put water there? Water is a tool for establishing a horizontal plane of reference. I've got one here, so water level. Here you go. It'll go to whatever height the other one is. The other one's over here. Over here. Now, do you want to imagine there's a hump in the middle somewhere around here? In between this one and this one? Here somewhere? Or are you going to move this one here if you want to check where it is? You just mark it there. And then move it over there. If one of them doesn't move, then what happens to the water level? Always stays even. All of these marks on here, if you stopped it at that point, that one, and then move it over there, you'd be able to say that they're all parallel. The difference between one end and the other end, if you go up and down, will always be parallel. That's the basis of the 2-peg test. You're jealous of my protractor? It's got all of the 360 degrees in it. Look. Starts there. Ooh, 0. Goes all the way around, and when it gets to 360, it's 0 again. It's amazing, my protractor. Is that one of the biggest protractors you've seen? Has anybody seen a bigger protractor than that? Are they jealous? I bet they are, aren't they? That's a big circle with big angles on it. I love that. So that's a very simple statement that you have to logically work it out for yourself. Can the point from here to here be horizontal, no matter how long that water level is. And if it is horizontal from one end to the other, then that line that goes all the way from one end to the other would be on the horizontal, right? Now, can you imagine the bit of water in the middle lifting up? And the further the ends get away, the more the middle goes higher. They love the tangents, don't they? There's no tangents here. Straight lines. A, B, C. A, B, C. 3 points. That's all you've got. What we call a triangle. This is with the imagine hump in the middle. When you imagine the centre of a water level, the bit where the water level isn't, when you imagine that on a globe, you have to have the middle bit higher. I can't put that any simpler than that. So thank you very much for that. That's it. Does that explain Blue's imagine hump?
Wonderfully.
Yeah. Without curves as well. I mean, I love that. It's took me ages to find these magnets and strings and stuff.
Yeah, it's a good way of showing it, Bev. Yeah.
Now, oh, I've got some old people in the chat. Gently's is back. The other argument that we have, I've heard recently, is the argument about an angle. So, would be this angle here. I mean, could be that angle. Could be that angle. Be that angle. Angles are just angles, right? Now, if you just have that going up, well, like that, it's just an angle. So what could we do with this angle? Let's okay, here's a peach, and he's on a bit of a hill there, and he's looking out. It's a bit on the sea there, and he's on a hill. He can measure angles. He could measure that angle there. He could measure that angle there if he wanted to. It's just an angle. Doesn't help you in any way, really. It's just an angle. I don't know. We'll give him we'll not give him a book. He doesn't need it. He's just measuring angles. I might need a McToon one. I might need a McToon and his angle. Any other discussions about? I don't even think it's an argument, to be honest. The angle one. I mean, we have heard recently. I mean, Blue said, "No, there's a hump in the water," and you say a 90-foot hump, and he goes, "Yep, a 90-foot hump in the middle." You say that's ridiculous, and Blue says, Jesse Kozlowski gave us some numbers. Brilliant. I mean, that doesn't help us with a big hump of water in the middle. But that's what they've got. I think they've made their own shadow giants. They've made their own shadow giants of YouTube shadow giants that nobody actually knows what they are, what they said. These new shadow giants of the 2020s haven't even wrote any books. They've just sort of waved the magic wand to make people think they've done something that they haven't. They've just convinced people on the globe science argument, or within the globe science argument, that they actually have some sort of an argument. Which is why I think it's so important what Ravens went over yesterday, the trivium, just to know what the argument is going to be the key. I'm not aware of exactly what the argument from the other side is, other than them getting upset at us asking questions like, what exactly is your argument? Genius, Gently. That's a good argument, Gently. There's globe science in the YouTube chat. So I want to get that. I'll get that for everybody so you can see exactly how good the globe. I take it you are still a globe, Gently. You've not swapped over to the other side. He says, Bev thinks there's no books. Do you like that? Well done, Gently. Anytime you want to come and have a chat, Discord's open. You can come in. There are definitely books. The Elements is a book we talk about quite often. That's what we do tonight. It's Euclid. The Elements.
Oh, that's one of my favorite books.
Yeah, it's definitely a book though, right? So how Gently could get it so wrong about divining my thoughts?
When there are definitely books.
Yes, there's quite a few books in sight of me right now. Euclid's always been on my table for quite a while. So, understanding what the argument is and not coming up with an argument that somebody else thinks something that they know is true, but we'll just get it in because it sounds like a good argument. Well, it's not an argument at all, Gently. Doesn't mean anything. It's a non-argument. It's pretty obvious that that's all we've been listening to for the last 2 years. Me personally, anyway. I mean, other people might have been able to have, other than in this Discord server and trying to talk to people, especially the Globe Earth Science community that we've got in the chat tonight. We're just talking about simple geometry and the ridiculousness of somebody putting a hump in the middle of water level. It just doesn't exist. And now, I don't want to give them away, but I mean, you can't measure from a curve if you don't have a straight line in order to base how much curvature there is or how much drop there is. We know how elevation's measured. We know that all horizontals have to be parallel in order for you to be able to measure those elevations. We know what a vertical datum is. the fact that it doesn't fit with a geometric framework of your model. Sorry.
We also know how water flows.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it doesn't hump in between horizontal points.
Absolutely not.
I hope we've not got people spreading misinformation in the chat, have we? Saying, crying. I hope not. Don't get personal with them in the chat. See, Zep Tepe's there. He's getting in the swing of it. He says that Earth isn't a globe; it has hills and mountains. It's true.
Come on in, Zep.
It's true, yeah. Common ground.
Nice. I like that.
Statement of truth are always the best. And surely we can go forwards from that one statement. I'm still waiting to take somebody through the 12 at some point. Stop the you don't need to see my video anymore. Thank you very much. That was a quick one on the board. I can't do as good as Ravens with the computer graphics and spreadsheets and all that. But we try. But it's the geometry argument is more about logic. And to start off with, you have to have an understanding of what a straight line is. And I know, most people in here know, that's where the fundamentals of the globe model breaks down, because they cannot have an understanding of what straight is. Spherical geometry has screwed their heads up, and it's gone into paraconsistent logic. It's gone into just contradictions, acceptable contradictions within the globe model. And we're learning them. We know them. We know the contradictions within the arguments. And that's why people don't want to talk to us. And that's fine, because I don't want any more confusion. We try and work forwards. Anybody wants to come and have a discussion, a geometric discussion about this, or a logical discussion? Logic is there as a framework for us to be able to express things. Now, Ravens set us on the path to find the rhetoric, right? Find the best way to use the words that can you can talk to people, so you can all come to an understanding. Now, the only way we can do that is by talking to people. So we're hopefully going to open it up for discussion. We'll be having the discussions anyway. Anybody wants to come in, you can. Just try not to bring any globe science. Please. Bring logic and patience. Try to bring your grammar and rhetoric so we can understand each other. That's all we're after. Stone, if you want to come in and talk about spherical geometry, come in and have a discussion about it. I'm saying there's no need for it, but I mean, if you say there is a need for it, you come in and discuss what you think spherical geometry is needed for. Show us exactly how it's needed and how it's applied. I'm not aware of any way to use it. It's straight lines are the only way in reality. They're the only thing you can use. Teppy, you're mad for the globe, aren't you? No. This is geometry and logic, guys. Isn't it weird that the people that get the most triggered about simple things, simple arguments and straight lines, if
They'd
you
rather talk about lights in the sky, you know, billions and billions of light years away. Yeah.
Yeah, Stone, if you want to come in and explain to us about spherical geometry, then go ahead. See if you can do it without talking about X's and Y's, though, because that would be Cartesian coordinates. They'd be straight lines. I bet it is hard work without talking about X and Y. Spherical geometry. No, Stone, we're just asking you to come in for a discussion. We don't know. We don't need to be educated. We need to have the discussion. If you want to come in and have the discussion, come on in. We do it live. Because we can. It's very simple. Especially when you get it down to the water level and like use Blue's hump. Blue's Imagihump as an example. And tell us how you would apply spherical geometry to the Imagihump to convince people that there is a higher point in between 2 points, but not actually higher. You've got to imagine it not being higher.
Dialetheism.
Yeah. Two truths. How can you have it higher but not being higher? It's on the same. It's crazy. Straight lines are straight. They do not curve. No matter how much guys that are wanting to fight what's it called? A non-word, non-statement. People fight that sort of stuff by saying that straight lines can curve. Well, I'd agree. I'd just say that they're curved lines then. At the moment they're not straight, they're curved lines.
They can't be both. No matter how much you want it to be so, it cannot be. Simple.
Impossible to have that hump of water in the middle. Even if you say it's a hump that isn't a hump, it's still impossible. It's just an imaginary thing. And geometry is the expression of through words, definitions, logic, understanding, and reasoning. Geometry is that. Talk through point and line in space. Well, that's where we live in reality. Geometry is how we describe the physical nature of our reality. I don't want it to turn into a lecture or anything. It is worth knowing and understanding, though, that everybody's assigned to text chat trolls. I mean, we've known it for quite a long time. It's much easier for a certain group of people to be in the text chat troll range, because then they can't come and talk about it. Non-arguments in the text chat. I'm done with them. So try harder, guys. It's not working. Let's deal with the geometric proofs rather than somebody's number list that they've handed on to somebody, that somebody else has unclamped.
Shout out Blue.
Yeah. Globe science, unclamping of straight lines to turn them into Googleistic lines of variable potential. Shout out Blue. That's Blue's. That's what Blue calls them. He says they've been around for years.
Unclamp that gravitational equal potential. Yeah.
Yeah. So, arguments after arguments, but without a clear understanding of the argument. Well, again, an argument. What is an argument? I'd say it's a structured statement using logic and grammar to be able to be put forward for discussion.
With somebody else. Yep.
Yeah, it has to be with somebody else, right? An argument is with discussion. It's not much good coming up with an argument on your own and then coming to the conclusion. You need to check it with somebody else.
Yeah, the exchange of logical statements, usually through steps, to, what we were saying before, right? To explain your, whatever it is you're trying to explain.
And just recently, there is the greatest non-argument that everybody's imagined their own argument. All based. I've been saying it for quite a while. The biggest magic trick ever performed always involves an angle and people's misunderstanding of what that angle is. How it gets used. There's like a wizard trick that occurs within the angle. And yeah, there's one's being performed at the moment. Ask yourself, are you falling for it or not? Make yourself clear what the argument is. Would you like to take over for a bit, Essie, while I make a brew? Or do you want me to lead you into it?
Oh, I don't mind. Whatever anybody wants to talk about. I was going to ask you angle. When you say angle, you mean a physical angle or an angle like somebody's trying to pull one over on you?
Well, It's the angle within the angle, right? If you want to talk about it like that. It's like the understanding is you can do fuck all with an angle. Now, that saying that just means geometrically, if you have one part of a triangle, that's all you have. One part of a triangle. You don't have the length of any lines, and you only have one angle.
Yep, that's what I was trying. If you want to go ahead and make your brew.
Yeah. Okay, sweet. Thank you.
That's what I was trying to explain to some people over on 24/7 today. We were talking about the sextant, the angle, navigation, and everybody got triggered to high hell. Now, my point was that the sextant, you measure an angle with it. Now, fine, right, I get the point with the adjacent and this and that. Understood. You need two straight lines for an angle. Now, what I was trying to explain to the boys over there was, okay, fine. Now, let's say a baller asks you, okay, what do? You got this angle, right? What do you do with it after? And everybody got triggered. Now, in order for you to do something with that angle, you have to use what's called the magic book. We call it that. Right? Now, in this book, a baller could come up to you and tell you, well, where'd you get this book? Or I can ask you, after you got your angle, right? What do you do next? And they'll say maybe a GP, ground position. Where'd you get the GP? You have to do trigonometry, right? To solve this where you're at sea, right? Now, where'd you get your GP? What is a GP? Nobody had a clue. And they tried to reverse it on me and ask me how it's done. Why are you asking me how it's done? You guys are claiming it, right? You should know how it's done. So yeah, I had a little some miscommunication. And I simply put it to them, let's say I put you in the ocean and I blindfold you and I give you a sextant. You think you can find your way home? And everybody gets triggered. It's just a simple question. So I wonder how many people, sorry about that. I wonder how many people in this, shall we call it arena, know how to navigate using a sextant and know all the corrections and what they say you have to do. I'd like people to look into that and see how ridiculous it is. And by the way, it's based, the angle and all the calculations, there has to be dip corrections put in there. You have to assume there's no atmosphere. A whole bunch of crazy stuff. If you look into it, it's taken from the center of the Earth, the calculations, dip corrections, atmospheric refraction. And that's just for one correction. The altitude of the mythical light in the sky. So yeah. Has anybody here navigated? using a sextant. But yet, it is the top thing right now. The sextant proves the flat Earth, right? Sextant proves the flat Earth. Does it? If I was arguing the case, I'd rather use what you guys have, the black swan that QE came up with, 100 times over the sextant thing.
Yeah, I'm back. I heard you ask, has somebody ever used a sextant? I'd say, has anybody ever used that argument?
Yeah, when I mean a sextant, I mean for navigation. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm taking more about the actual argument, though, right? Because even knowing about how to use a sextant, I don't think would aid you in the argument about an angle and how it's used or anything. I mean, obviously, they like to say spherical geometry, but that's not really an argument. And explaining how something's done isn't an argument either. I mean, where is the argument? I'm not too sure there is one.
Well, they point to a triangle and say we need the adjacent. Yeah, okay, fine. You need the adjacent to do trigonometry. Agreed. But how do you get all the rest of the stuff? The length, the angle, the GP. You got to use a magic book. I was trying to explain that to them, but wasn't getting through.
Shadow Giants wrote those books, though, right? Some shadow giants wrote the book, and what they wrote in the book, who knows? But they did. They wrote the book.
It's like using a flat, shall I say, a flat Earth angle, and using a globe book, a magic book, to try to prove a point. And I was trying to tell them, look, there's holes in this argument. That's all I'm trying to tell you guys. You're not ready for this argument. I was telling them a baller, an experienced baller, can crush you on this. I guess they didn't like that.
From what I've seen, they've wrapped themselves up into just an argument. McToons is has he done a video? I haven't bothered watching him, but has he done one to start off how he did it? How he's, because somebody won one of his challenges, didn't they? Bacon, I think. Has he ever shown the video of how it's done? I mean, it doesn't really interest me that much. But was the argument ended by somebody using McToons' angles? Tell him where he is. I don't know. But it's an interesting, I think, non-argument.
Yeah, it's something that uses the lights in the sky. That's what bothers me. We're trying to stay away. We've been trying all these years to stay away from the lights in the sky. And now what do we have? An argument that involves lights in the sky.
If, then.
Yeah.
And at the minute, I don't know, if you can measure an angle, then you have measured an angle, would be my argument. But other people take it to different places. Measure 3 angles? I don't know. measure 3 angles and come to a sum of 180, or do they come to measure 3 angles and get a sum of more than 180 or less than 180?
Well, they use a right angle. I've seen them explain that. At least they do that. They use a right angle triangle.
An imagined right angle triangle.
Yeah. The thing is, how do you get that? That is my question.
Yeah, you had got that clip today. That was a pretty good statement to read out, wouldn't it? If you what did you get about how apparent the apparent position? That wasn't too long ago.
The one I clipped in the
Yeah,
from the navigation. Yeah, it's up there. Yeah, they tell you straight out. Just it doesn't take much to research it. They put in dips and adjust for refraction, but refraction is not always the same, so it's 15 feet and blah, blah, blah. It's like a bunch of horse, you know what.
Yeah, this is the one that you got. Yeah, this one. I thought this one was quite a good one. It says the correction tables for sextant altitudes. The altitude intercept method is generally used for the celestial navigation. Is based on the comparison of an observed altitude, HO, with a related computed altitude. The computed altitude is based on a mathematical model implying a number of conditions and assumptions, some of which, so this isn't a comprehensive list of assumptions.
Just some.
This is just some of the assumptions that are dealt with in between 2 different altitudes. One of them observed and the other one computed based on a mathematical model.
Yep.
So, no, first, a list of assumptions, some of the assumptions. One of them. The celestial bodies have no physical dimensions and observations are made from the center of Earth. Now, if that isn't relativism, I've not got a clue. What you're doing, anytime you measure an angle to deal with correction tables, you are putting yourself at the center, no matter wherever you make a measurement from. You put yourself at the center. Ridiculous. That's just one assumption. Number one, you're doing it from the center of something. And no, they have no physical dimensions. The lights in the sky have no physical dimensions. They're not there. Nominal, we may say. Light rays from celestial bodies come from infinitely far away and hence reach the Earth parallel to one another. All light is parallel. I'm guessing that must mean that out there, parallels are allowed. I mean, I'm taking it they mean parallel being a straight line parallel when they say parallel, because that's what parallels are, straight lines.
Absolutely.
Parallel.
Yep.
So spherical geometry cannot exist in a place where everything is assumed parallel. All light parallel, geometrically parallel. And assumption number 3 of the sum, the Earth has no atmosphere and air.
That was my favorite one.
Has no index of refraction. Just doesn't exist. Just get rid of it.
They don't need that stinking atmosphere. No
refraction in the air. Don't even worry about that. So whoever uses refraction argument is on top of the assumptions that they're making of there being none. So celestial navigation and the correction tables for a sextant does not assume any of this stuff. So anybody that engages in an argument that's a non-argument, that they bring up refraction. It's not even in the thing. Who's brought that argument into it? Who brings an argument that's not an argument into a thing with an argument, and then when it says there it's assumed that there are no index of refraction, who then adds in an index of refraction into a non-argument to make it even more convoluted? I know who. People that engage in the argument. It says these assumptions are not fulfilled for observations made in the physical world. In order to put the mathematically computed altitude and the real world observed altitude on an alike basis of comparison, some corrections must be applied to the measured sextant altitude. Assumptions. It's a non-argument. Yeah, they did use sextants for getting around. And yeah, they did have a lot of shipwrecks in the old days. They're all over the floor. Especially around reefs and stuff. They've got better ways of doing it, but they've been navigating the seas, trade winds. They've known about this sort of stuff for quite a while. But the way I see it with navigation, you know where you start off from, and you need to get to where you're going. They're your 2 points. You've just got to know the route you want to be able to take. If you're good at navigation, you'll get there. If you're not, you won't. But I'd say the most important thing about navigation is a firm understanding of the words you're using, the actual statements that you're making. You have to have an understanding of directions, straight lines. You have to. Don't get lost in a non-argument. But I mean, that's up to you, anybody. I wouldn't engage with that non-argument. I think that's what I'm going to be aiming for now, is to understand what the argument is from people first. Because if, like we said at the beginning, logic is a statement that brings, I don't know how to, the words aren't quite there yet, but if you know the words that you start off with and you can formulate a logical statement, then that logical statement is the basis of an argument. The discussion that ensues from somebody partly making a statement is the argument, where we hopefully begin to formulate a statement that makes sense to both parties, and then the conclusion can be worked together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why you can't say an angle and then the opposite, right? And then if somebody tells you, well, is this for navigation? You're going to have to say yes, right? And then if they ask you, well, aren't you using a globe book that has all these dip corrections and that correction to achieve your goal? So wouldn't that be like a hole in your argument right there? I'm just asking.
But the idea is to ask the question to cause people to think for themselves. to come up to. It's quite obvious that people don't want to listen to other people. People don't need any more shadow giants to be telling them what to do. It's so easy to make an argument yourself and come to the understanding yourself. This stuff may take a while and a few steps that may be needed, but the discussion is what is mostly needed. You can't come to conclusions on your own. You need to be discussing them. And if they are good, then they should be shared. Come and share them. This is where we have the discussions. Everyone in here. Discord. Next level. I don't know where we can go anywhere else. This seems to be the place. I don't think there's Google Hangouts or anywhere that's quite like this. You could get some groups of people. There's quite a few people in here now. The discussions are always worthwhile, even when it's just us playing computer games and stuff. So anybody wants to come in?
Well,
Oh, go on. Who's that? Turn up. Welcome.
how you doing?
We are live.
What's up, YouTube?
We are live. Just a warning. A turn up the truth
Yeah.
warning.
Just to add a little story. Actually, it's relevant to the topic right now. Something happened today that kind of took me by surprise because it's really only ever happened maybe 5 times, a handful of times before. That's why it kind of took me off guard. But I had a conversation today with one of the new guys, and the F word was used. For YouTube people who may not know what the F word is, we call the F word flat. So I was explaining the plumb bob thing, and he proceeded to go for, oh, please don't tell me this is something of flat earth. And I did the rest of my conversation, whatnot, and I left. And it's been probably about 2.5 hours since we've had that conversation. And I went to go and take his bin full of clothes. And he says, hey, just so you know, I'm really sorry about earlier. And I'm really confused because I've already forgotten about the whole thing. Being part of this conversation, sticks and stones, having people not take you seriously thing, that's just kind of disappeared now. Right? But before, when we first got into this, that shit was so prevalent. Like, it was, you couldn't get away from it. So he had said, we were having a conversation earlier, and I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry if I offended you. And I'm still like, bro, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. He says, when we were having a conversation about flat earth and stuff, I was kind of like not really taking you serious, and I was kind of like laughing, and I just wanted to let you know that I'm really sorry. And I've never actually heard in quite some time, somebody who obviously thinks that flat earth is a joke. But he must have had a moment. Whatever it was that I said, something must have clicked in his head and made him come to the conclusion that somehow, in some way, in that interaction, he was wrong. And he had to apologize for it. And it just kind of took me off guard a little bit. So YouTube, listen. I've only been having these conversations here and there. That's the only way that these work. If you bombard people with all of this, they're going to shut you the down right now. Little doses. Just say a couple of things here, wait till next week, say something else. Make it completely different from the last one that you said. Make them really think. Because the time span between the two times, whatever it is that you're telling them, is what matters most. Now, I had Gabe talk to me today at lunch as well. And he was the first person that I talked to at work about the plumb bob thing. And he's like right on board. Now today I even upscaled it. It was raining outside. And there was a ginormous puddle of water. And I just happened to glance at it. And all of a sudden a whole argument came into my head just by looking at a puddle. Right? So I walked up to him. I'm like, okay, so remember all that shit I was talking to you about, the level water and all that shit? He says, yeah. Okay. You see that puddle over there? And it's just a puddle, right? It's a pretty small puddle. He says, yeah. Okay, so let's upscale that shit, right? Now, that water across point A to point B on the top should be relatively the same level, right? It's not going to be underneath because, there may be a little bit, it's deeper, shallow, right? So he's looking at me, he's understanding. I'm like, okay, now let's upscale this, right? Let's make that shit an ocean, right? And he's like, I think I know where you're going with this. I'm like, okay, where am I going with this? Well, you're probably gonna go say that since the water's level, you're probably gonna say that Earth is 70 or so percent. I don't really know the percentage, but 70 or some percent water. And I'm like, keep going. But he stopped. Why? Because it already made sense in his head. He didn't need to say anymore. And all you had to do was have a little tiny conversation with somebody. It's so easy. It's so easy to have conversations. And when you have conversations with especially people that you've never had this kind of conversation with before, look what happened with the new guy today. He definitely thought that one mindset before I said anything to him. But I guarantee you, right now, at this very moment, that kid is at home right now, not thinking the same way he did. He isn't.
He might have just thought you were a boss or something. You might have looked like a boss man. And he might have thought, fuck, did I just call the boss man a flat earther? I best go and apologise. It can be quite offensive.
And it's kind of weird because it's like I say, something had to have clicked, whatever it was that I was saying to him, because I used the plumb bob example, and right after that, Greg, the boss, was right next to the new guy, and he has also started going on, well, doesn't really matter what y'all believe as long as you have something to look forward to. I mean, he's all about Star Trek and shit, and I'm listening in the background, listening to talk to the new guy, and the one thing that kind of made me think that he's going to be the next person I land all this shit on is is, well, the one thing that I can for sure say for myself, that I have to believe myself, I know deep down, is that this place can't be the only place out of all of this stuff. We can't be the only life. And I'm like, oh, you're so fucked. I'm so gonna nail you. he thinks there's other planets and other life forms and space, and oh, you're so mine. But I gotta wait. I'm gonna wait until after my fucking 3 months probation is over. That way they can't fire me.
It's going to be hard to get into that discussion.
Yeah, especially with some I don't want to say someone like him because he's just a person like me, but you know, I don't want to like burn a bridge, but like start a comment. Oh, we got a flat earther on our hands. Yeah, we got to get rid of this guy like right now.
Well, I think Raven is going to help us to camera on there, Rob. I think you've hit the wrong button. It's going to help us get out of arguments rather than get into arguments, I think. You know, the more clear we can make the statements and the understanding, and the more the easier we can understand the argument, then hopefully less emotion will be put in. We can help people put less emotion into the argument.
Yeah, because that's what I've been trying to do. I've been trying to find a way to deliver the argument, deliver that plumb bob example without bias, right? With like the other day with Gods, right? I told him the same thing. You take the plumb bob, you only nail it the one time and let it hang. Take that same plumb bob and make it hang diagonally, only nailing it once at the top of the string like you did the first time, and let it hang. 2 actions. And he wants to add a third nail, a magnet, and all this and he gets it. I know he was trolling, but I'm sorry, that shit just, it won't do what it does, what it's supposed to do on a diagonal, because it can do it. I still challenge anybody who's listening. Get the plumb bob without any other obstructions. Get a plumb bob to hang diagonally while the rope is still taut, in the same orientation that it would be as if it was in a vertical, but in a diagonal, and keep the rope taut. You can do it. I promise. What's that? What would we call that? Oh, I guess it's law, right? I mean, that would be breaking the laws of physics. That shit just wouldn't work like that.
You've got to be careful with things like that. Laws of physics. Well, that sounds like a self-evident truth there, a law. I'm not so sure you're allowed to have those. You might be upsetting people.
What if I buy it? Can I buy it?
What, a law?
I got a job now. I can buy things.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, can I buy friends? Oh, I can buy subscribers now. No, I was kidding.
You've got a channel. You have got a channel, haven't you?
Yeah, I've got a channel, but I ain't gonna buy much. I don't waste my name on that shit. But
We're waiting for
That
the
is a
collab.
stupid.
Turn Up and
Sorry.
Buster collab. You're gonna have to do it.
Well, hey, I still gotta jam up all that money so I can get myself a good computer, because I'm not gonna lie, Bev. I'm not gonna lie. I don't give a shit if we're live. But you're pissing me off playing that game. You're making me want to fucking play it so fucking bad. Sitting there watching, and I'm muted the whole time. I'm swearing at Lee. I'm swearing at you like a mother. The fuck is that? I knew it. I knew I shouldn't have watched this shit, because now I want to play.
Well, tomorrow night, Free for All Fridays will be accompanied by us playing GTA. Whilst talking, we'll be doing both at the same time.
Yeah, bro, it's gonna be fucking balling.
So we'll have it. Yeah,
not that ball.
Something new to try. Free for All Fridays whilst gaming tomorrow. Anybody wants to come and get involved with the Next Level Gaming? It's going to be led by my son and Turn Up. But Turn Up needs a PC. We'll sort that out.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to start playing DayZ too with Emma.
Mm-hmm.
Right, Emma?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, that's right. And I don't know if I should say that. Well, it's too late now. You can't just leave us hanging. All right. That's a good point, right? All right. So when we start playing DayZ, this is just a warning. This is Turn Up the Truth. This has nothing to do with anybody else on this panel, so don't you dare come attacking. If you want to attack somebody, Turn Up the Truth on YouTube. Go to that guy. But Sean, when I get a PC and I start playing DayZ, you better be running, because I'm looking for you. I'm going to take all your guns.
Yeah, shout out Sean Hawkins. I don't know where he is. He's been quiet for a bit. No doubt this should trigger some sort of response somewhere at some server. Sean, if you're listening, yeah, we're doing gaming, so you want to come and join in? Maybe we can team up forces, gaming.
Heck yeah. Down for that.
Although Emma does have a server, a DayZ server, so there's not really much need for him. It's a shame
I
that,
forgot
isn't it?
about that. How long has it been since you've been in that? Quite a while, isn't it?
In what?
Ever since last year.
No, about 2 weeks ago.
Oh, really? That's not that recent.
Yeah.
It's still active.
Have you reinstalled it? Or
No. I'm not going anywhere near it at the moment.
Yeah, you need a stronger PC.
I want to get away from Euclid night tonight. We are straying away.
Yeah, sorry. That's my fault. I'll take responsibility.
No problem. But is it worth saying that we are bringing the gaming in tomorrow, so, and I don't know how many people do any gaming or anything. We're trying something new, seeing whether we can expand Next Level into RP gaming. Might be interesting. Who knows? We're going to go into that. I think we might have to go with Red Dead as well at some point. Go and kill some bears. So, Euclid night tonight, but the simplicity of the arguments, I think, is what we can gain from Euclid within the geometry. To pull it back to the trivium, back to the argument. How we can state arguments to help clarify the argument, to help people, because an argument isn't the conclusion that you come to. The argument is the statement and the discussion based around the formulation that you can then help use reasoning within the argument to come to the conclusion. Yes, Pat, I was feeling the same. PC gaming. It's a scary thought, because you know that's where minds are lost. Into that chasm. I guess the gaming world is the storytelling of old. Something to while the hours away, just to keep your mind active while time passes. It's got to be done constructively, with purpose, otherwise. Yeah, I'm with you, Pat. I've been there before and wondered, what am I doing?
It's a waste of brain waves.
It's just time. Time's important.
Time is a commodity, I told you.
Mm-hmm.
It's the best and the biggest and most lucrative commodity there is. Check out your car. Check out all the cities. Everything is designed for you to waste time. Standing in line. Waiting for your paycheck. Time.
I hate to be a party pooper here, but I have to do it.
Do it.
Uh-oh.
Do it.
That's exactly what they want you to do. Get lost in a virtual reality and forget about the real world. That's what the magic trick is all about.
There's a real world?
Well, Spot On was saying, he's gone into Ludwig, right? He's been looking into that. Obviously, people go down their own ways, and they come and talk afterwards. So one of Spot On's main things that when he's been looking into Ludwig Wittgenstein is there's no sense in any sort of discussion, really. When you really look at it, there's no sense in it, unless you're actually progressing. But that can be a lonely road, because who doesn't? A lot of people like to talk about the price of fish and the weather. But what is there really within that discussion? It can be a lonely path when you start thinking too much about stuff like that and forgetting to enjoy the time that you have. There's got to be a balance somewhere.
Was that weather comment and dig at me?
Yeah. Price of fish. You know what I mean. We know it's a good discussion, but yeah, you know what I mean, don't you?
Yeah, that sounds good. It's a filler, right? Something, because you don't know what the next step is until the next step comes. And then when the next step comes, you got to sit and wait and wonder for what the next step comes. It's like...
Look, nobody's going against video games, right? But when you spend your day online pretending you're a taxi driver, taxiing people around, you got to start looking like and saying, "Come on now."
It's not a taxi, it's an Uber.
You're providing a service.
Yeah, why don't you go and become an Uber driver and make some money? Do it for real. Just a thought.
Well, yeah.
For those that can, right?
It's
For those that
as
can.
real as the TV programs, isn't it? Each to their
Same
own.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah.
It might be that you're watching the best comedian you've ever seen, driving a taxi, talking to people.
It might even be the cash cab.
Or it might be some guy with no life whatsoever, living his life or wasting his life in a video game.
I think I could say that it could be all of these things and none of them. It could be a route. It depends how you approach it, how you construct it. It could be an avenue of communication where there's people that you can't reach any other way that may allow you to get into a conversation that will lead somebody to some good realizations, or it can be something that people get lost in as a fantasy and escapism route. So it's difficult to say all or nothing. I think it's got value. It could have value both ways. Well, value one way and not value the other way. But there's potential, I think, to reach a group of people who, if you set it up right and you've got a means of having communication and conversation with people while they're in this state of living this unreal existence, that may allow you just to open their eyes a little bit. As long as you don't get lost in it yourself, that's the trap. That's the risk, I think, that you might get drawn in and lost yourself. I don't know what anybody thinks about that.
Well, I think that they're making the real world, the world we live in, kind of horrible, so everybody wants to escape into that fantasy. And I think that's a trap there.
Yeah.
You think you're going to live, maybe a more happy, fruitful life in a fantasy, and the world around you is constantly deteriorating. So I think that's part of their plan to get you to go into that world.
Yeah. But does that then prove, is there a challenge there for people who want to go and help people who might be in that world? You've got to enter that world to some degree to try and touch people's lives, but it's risky unless you're really, really well grounded yourself, I think.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it, but it's Plato's cave, isn't it? It's returning.
Yep, you're going into the cave.
You're going back in.
Exactly. Yes. I hate to put it that way. I was trying to be gentle, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a fear of do you end up staying in there, or do you come back, or how long do you stay there? Do you keep going in there and coming back out again?
I feel the same way.
Yeah. You've got to though, right? You can't stay on the outside. You've got to.
Well, they do. They return, don't they? They have to,
I'm saying us, right?
Yes, I know.
We have to go in there again and just, I don't know, just drop a couple of comments.
Yeah.
Hey, look. It's a guy with a big thing there behind you. Have a look. Like Rocky said, it's our job now to point it out. If we don't, who's gonna? Who's gonna?
Yep.
Yes, true.
The thing is now that they made that cave so alluring. It's no longer shadows. They have 3D graphics.
Yeah, they got controllers.
They got controllers.
VR
They got
headsets.
Very alluring. That cave is very, very alluring. That's my concern.
Yeah. I think those of us that have been in once before and escaped are probably not going to be going back there. I don't think.
It's happened in other ways, hasn't it? In the past, like people who have say immerse themselves into say the history of Lord of the Rings and become so engrossed in that reality. You know, they learn the Sindrian languages. They go in there. They take on the characters. It's always been, you know, literature and art and story and mythology. It's always been there, but the most powerful mythologies and the most touching mythologies that reach people and can change and transform lives are those mythologies that teach and open up people's vistas to greater things. But they all hold that, I think they all hold that risk that you can get sucked in like quicksand if you're in the wrong right frame of mind and you're if you're looking for escapism, then it's got a risk.
Yeah.
But if you like Bev says, I think if you've been there, you've explored these challenges and these risks, and you've come through, and you want to then use them as tools to help other people get through, then, you know, by all means, I think you have to delve back in to reach out a hand to people.
And they're creating a world where you can be whatever you want to be or whoever you want to be, unlike the world we live in where they keep you down.
Yeah.
That's the enticement. Well said. Yeah.
Yeah. It's very alluring. I think Essie's right. It's very alluring.
So we've got the ultimate though, right? We have an Emma. If everyone had an Emma, I'm sure you'd be much better off.
I never asked, how did you get Emma?
Emma was there.
Emma was there?
Yeah. Emma was always there.
She came with the furniture.
Okay.
Keep your feet on the ground.
You're not making us.
Thanks, Rick. Yeah. Did I say that out loud? Oh, shit.
Well, when I first came into this, and I mean, I've not been in it for that long. There's a lot of people have been around here 6-7 years. I've not been in this particular arena for that long, but probably, I mean, been on the same trail for longer, as long at least.
Years.
Still going strong.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Rob, he's old school. He's OG. Or OF, I don't know. I don't know which one it is. So you come into it and the arguments are just aren't, I don't know. We've come out of the other side now, the way I look at it. Me actually coming into here was me discovering I was in the cave. But I was on the way out as soon as as soon as I met Emma, really. Emma and Spot on my journey. Some of the biggest steps that I made was meeting Emma, turn up, Redman and Spot on right at the beginning. And Emma got kicked out of 24/7, pushed out, and that's why we're here now. We are separated, and we have always been. And I thank everyone involved in all of those early days, because this is where we are now. Now I feel, but I mean, it may be wrong, right? I feel we are at least been out to see the light at the outside of the cave. If anybody doesn't know what we're talking about, this is Plato's Republic, and one specific bit called the allegory of the cave. And I think it's brilliant because it teaches you about what an allegory is, and that is an understanding, right? It's a story meant with references, but the references are way deeper, and the discussion that you can have around it because of the different ways people can think about the story is how the discussion develops. I would ask that you just read it or do it for yourself, look into it. Most people would understand it once you've read it, and for me to try and explain it, you'd only end up getting my interpretation of it, and that would be no good. You're much better off doing it yourself. But I would say that I've been, at least, I think, we're on the outside, but we're a group of people who, I don't know, you could say Stockholmed, right? Within an argument, within a discussion, we've been placed in this arena. We have, all of us. Some of us want to be in this arena. Some of us, I don't even know why we're in this arena. Some of us haven't got a clue what's going on. And some of us in this arena are actually making the arguments for other people to take on. Like, there are shadow giant argument makers out there. And I'd say, don't do that. Don't be watching the shadows. Turn around, look at the guys that are making the shadows, and think to yourself, do you want to be one of those people making shadows for people? Do you want to be one of those people looking at the shadows? Or do you want to be at the other side of it, watching everybody, watching the guys making the shadows and watching the people watching the shadows? It's a pretty deep thing when you start to think about that. Once you get that story, you then have to place yourself somewhere within that cave or around about the cave. And I'm not sure that I've even been outside and seen the light. I don't know. It might be
Have
too
any
scary.
of us? Yeah, have any of us?
I wouldn't know. But the only way you know about that is the discussion to go around it. If you can't discuss it and talk about it, at least be able to talk about the guys making the shadows. Talk about the guys watching the shadows. If you can't acknowledge it, if you can't acknowledge that there's a light that isn't the light at the end of the cave, it's a fake light that's causing these shadows. Which is the light that people are looking at? Which is the one? Ooh, which is? Where's the light that you're looking at? Are you being fooled by a fake light? Are you being fooled by shadows? Are you trying to cast shadows? Are you watching those shadows? And are they shadows of giants? Are they the shadow giants that you're using to form your arguments? because I think we were saying, I think within that analogy, I think we're at the point now where the shadow giants are the ones that have wrote things down. That's why people are following shadow giants.
Yeah, they want us standing in those shadows. It keeps us out of the light, where we can really see things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like what you said, Bev. Are you casting a shadow? In other words, are you the shadow? Are you the darkness that casts a shadow for the light? That's an interesting concept.
Yep. Or are you helping the shadows, the shadow casters?
Yeah.
Yep. Instead of asking the questions to the shadow casters.
Yeah, exactly. I see. Almost like our discussion around paralogism and sophistry, right? Same kind of concept.
Yep. If you can't even have the discussion, ask yourself why.
Yeah. You should be able to talk about anything, especially shadows and shadow casters. Definitely should be able to talk about shadows that are casting shadows. Can a shadow cast a shadow?
Good question.
Oh, look, Genesis is coming. He's deafened. Is that how people enter in here, or is that from last time? What does everybody think? Are we...
Okay, I have a question.
Okay.
Or it's more of a riddle. What can't cast light? What can't cast a shadow, rather? Name something that can't
Did you get
cast.
the answer in the question, Emma?
Yeah.
I think you gave it away. Yep.
Damn it. I totally got that really.
It was good anyway.
It was good.
She was so excited.
I know. I had it all laid out in my head, and then when I opened my mouth, it just all went horribly wrong. Many apologies.
Well, we're at 10:30 on a Euclid night right now. Remember, everybody, we've talked about discussions, logic discussions. Everybody's clicked the button. Should we be allowing Genesis in? I think he seems to be deafened. Wait, is that how people enter the room now, or is that from last time? Should we?
I thought the red was server deafened.
Yeah,
and
it
the
is.
White...
Yeah, I think it might be default now.
Okay. There you go. Sorry about that, Genesis. I don't know what that is. We've got to be careful about globe science nowadays. You're definitely a globe scientist, aren't you?
Yeah, sorry for that. I stay muted.
Okay. Have you? It's early. It's Thursday. Are you? Have you plenty hydrated tonight?
As I said, I will stay muted.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah. It must be because it's the long weekend.
Yes, I will get all the intelligence from you. Staying muted.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you will. Thanks for doing that. To speaking of shadows, I don't know. Euclid night. Now, I know. Did you? I think I saw you in the chat a bit earlier. Have you seen Blue's Imagihump Genesis? The B point.
Yes, I've seen the hump. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And have you seen the Blues 90-foot rendition that he's got from Jesse Kozlowski?
90 foot?
Yeah, he's got a 90-foot hump in the middle.
No, I have not seen that.
Ooh. Well, Lake Pontchartrain, or Rakia's Lake, we call it. There's a supposed 90-foot hump in the middle, but he doesn't have
like
it as an elevation change.
Emma arguing in this.
Sorry, could you try that again?
I would like Emma to argue in this.
Argue?
Yeah.
What, argue what? I don't think Emma doesn't really do arguments.
Is you the only one who's arguing 6?
What am I supposed to be arguing?
I don't know.
There we had Emma.
Blues hump. Imagine hump.
I would rather not talk about
Emma, do you believe everything Bev said?
Of course not. Don't be silly.
You don't. What
just
you
the
do
same
you
as
not
I don't
I
believe
say
everything
some
you
stupid
say.
shit when you're not
Yeah.
here, Genesis.
I would love to hear where Bema disagree with Bev.
Is this still live?
Yes, it is. Genesis
Is Genesis on mute or Genesis hydrated?
Yeah,
No,
I
now
think
we
he's
have
hydrated. He's
Rakia.
not really sticking with the Euclid or logical arguments. He just.
I would say
This
I have
is
more
drunk
money than
logic.
Rakia. I'm richer
Yeah,
than
we
Rakia.
shouldn't run the live show with this. Either ended or.
Is that true or is that false?
Yeah, Genesis. If you don't mind, we are trying to do a live show here about Euclid and logic.
Okay, I mute
Trivium.
myself.
Yeah, okay. I don't mind you coming back in if you've got a logical sense of something to inject into the conversation, but if you've got nothing about drunken ramblings, then please stay on mute. So we were talking about the cave and where people are and where they are within the cave and the understanding of things. Where, in order for you to be placed within the people watching the shadows, I don't think anybody would ever actually put themselves in that position, would they? Especially within this place we are now. Who would put themselves watching shadows? And who would put who as the shadow watchers? Because I don't think anybody would put themselves as a shadow watcher, would they? Isn't that sort of demeaning to put yourself in that position?
I think the ballers would happily put themselves as the shadow watchers.
Do you? I think
Because
that's
they
what...
follow the current shadows.
Well, isn't their entire argument that, no, you're wrong, we're not watching shadows?
Yeah, I think that's why they get upset, myself.
Yeah, well, good point, Saragaki, while repeating what the shadows say to the T.
Yeah. Don't kill the messenger.
Yeah, don't kill them. We're just the messenger. Don't kill the messenger.
Can you place yourself as a shadow watcher if you know you're watching shadows? Is that possible?
Yeah, I think that's the big trick, right? Everybody who goes through that allegory, right? No one ever imagines themselves as the shadow watchers.
Exactly. If they are the shadow watcher, can they even see the shadow?
Yeah, it's the paralogism, right? That is the place that you've Put yourself, if you put yourself, if you are watching shadows, then those shadows are real as anything to you. That's the paralogism. It's the framework you've built up for yourself. And if everybody imagines that they're not the shadows, then who do they imagine are the people that are watching the shadows, if not them? And when you think about it like that, then it could be you. You could be one of those people. Easily.
Yeah, that's why I say you should always be the one casting the light. So you're not the shadow watcher. Never know.
Yeah. Yeah, be ready to call it out when you see it. The only way you do it is finding things that don't fit. You're looking for the glitch. And if you can find the glitches, and use the Matrix, it's the same thing, isn't it?
I think that's my curse, bro. From school, I always found the glitch, and I used to piss off my teachers, and I think that's my curse.
I was the same.
Yeah, how did you make that call? Right, that's the best.
Yeah,
exactly.
Way to, that's the best way to compliment a poker player. When the story doesn't add up, I call.
Yeah.
How did you make that call? Well, I saw the glitch.
Yep. It's a curse, really.
Am I allowed to talk or not?
If you make sense, yes, and are on topic, of course.
I never make sense, so I stay on mute.
Fair enough.
Yeah. We don't need shadow giants. Nobody needs a shadow giant.
All you have to do is mention the name Einstein and say something that you don't agree with him, and the shadow believers go crazy. Now, would you say Einstein is a shadow giant?
Oh, definitely. Well, maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
To certain people, right? Not to
Yeah.
everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. Depends. Genesis thinks he's brilliant.
Yeah, Einstein rules.
Yeah.
I am that stupid. Yes.
Nobody said that. Nobody called you that. We just said that a lot of people follow the shadow giants blindly.
Yes, I'm the one.
What? You've got shadow giants? Do you acknowledge Einstein as a shadow giant, or you acknowledge them all? Multiple people as shadow giants?
Yes, Einstein and a lot of more people, yes.
You call them shadows. See, because when I'm talking about shadow giants, I'm talking about the images cast upon the wall that people are watching. Right? They're vague semblances of something cast by somebody else walking in front of a light. They're a nothing. They're just shadows. Okay. So you acknowledge Einstein as one of those shadows, or?
But then you're talking about Platon. And,
that's all we've been talking about. Yes.
Yeah. Platon said that everything was just shadows on his wall.
Is that nothing what you got real. Out of it?
Everything was. Yeah.
No, there's a story of people carrying objects. There's a light behind them. There's a wall. There's people sat in front of the wall. There's a cave. There's a light at the end of the cave. There's much more than that, right? It's not just shadows.
Yeah, one guy goes out, sees what's going on, comes back in, tells the boys what's happening.
What did Euclid said about this?
About Plato?
No, Euclid.
It's not. Yeah, it's not geometrical, is it? You mean in the elements, or?
Yeah, Euclid's elements.
Yeah, there's nothing about Plato in the elements. There's nothing about the allegory of the cave.
No, of course,
there's nothing
Plato
about the Republic.
And Socrates was sooner than Euclid. Yes.
I don't know. Of course, he couldn't say anything. Just stories, aren't they? I think they're just stories for us to learn from.
So you think that all the stories are true?
Seems like a non-argument. Like, no, I don't think all stories are true. Some stories are told by liars.
Okay, which stories are true then?
Okay, you're starting this circular argument stuff, Genesis.
It's just circular.
Yeah, it is.
We are talking about the oldest people ever known.
The oldest.
Are you familiar with?
Say this is circular.
Are you familiar with the allegory of the cave?
No, I have not heard of that.
Well, that's what we're talking about, sir.
I'm asking Bev if Socrates is the same as Euclides. Euclides was 300 years before Christ, and Socrates was also about that age. So who was right and who was wrong? I'm asking Bev. And Montreal says I'm circular.
So you're saying it's a fight between Socrates and Euclid?
I don't know.
Why? It's such a ridiculous question.
I'm asking you. You say the same or what?
It's a perfect example of a non-argument. It's a discussion about the weather.
My question
who was hardest?
My question is against Montreal. What is circular about this?
It's a non-argument, isn't it? The circularity to it is the fact that you just keep fucking asking stupid questions.
I am stupid. You know,
but going away from the topic. On top of that,
stupid questions, Genesis.
I heard you yesterday.
Don't sound like a snowflake.
You were talking about all the round earthers was evil and wasn't.
No, he didn't.
I want to talk
no,
to
he
you.
didn't. Genesis, I thought you were going on mute.
Small community.
Genesis, I thought you were going on mute.
Okay, there was Emma. I immediately stay quiet.
No, not quite immediately, but what you said was totally false, so you may as well just stay muted.
Then
At
my
least
question is,
until we're not live.
Yeah, thank you. I was just making a quick brew in there. Again, this is the type of thing. I mean, we don't invite drinkers in usually, although Genesis does seem to want to come in and talk about nothing. For one of the most educated people he pretends to be, PhD and mathematician. It's rather embarrassing. Yeah, point to point, we've done it. Interesting phraseology you've done there, but yes. Emma got that one, I think. Tomorrow, I've put out before the show, because it's going to be a gaming one. SE went out and did a recording over at Geo's. So we've done a Buster soundtrack to that. We've added the original Shorter Than a Straight Line at the end of it, the original Buster track. So you get to hear the original Shorter Than a Straight Line thing. But Shorter Than a Straight Line 2, Bendizontal Boogaloo, I've called it.
That was Rakia that brought this out. Let's give credit where credit is due.
I think it was Rakia that caused the brain freeze.
Yep.
Or it was the globe model that had taught a globe scientist something that he just had to tell everyone about. And Rakia was the one there that happened to coax this genius argument out of somebody. This will go down in history as
absolutely
the model affliction.
He asked the right question, and the opponent went. Shout out Rakia.
Now, this particular argument was at the start of a long running battle, so I think it will be the same as usual. We will end up with more problems within it, let's say. But yeah, one of the best arguments there is for reality and to show what will happen if you follow shadows for too long. What happens?
You become a shadow. That's what happens.
Yeah. You want to become a shadow giant yourself. You admire the shadow giants that much that you want to put your shadow there to teach people with, I think.
Yeah, the Stockholm takes over. You get Stockholmed, and then you become the shadow giant, or you want to be.
Yeah. And I think some sort of paralogisms lead you to believe that you can be. You know, these casting shadows for future people to watch. You just video it. Catch a shadow and video it and keep playing it back. Eventually, it's like YouTube. We're doing it right now.
Yep, and before you know it, the shadows got you believing, shadow giants, excuse me, got you believing that right now you're traveling at 1.5 million miles an hour.
Yeah, that's a good shadow, right? But again, the only people I've ever heard saying that are not globe earthers. Right? That's a non-argument based upon a non-model. It's only ever brought up by people that aren't trying to prove it. Because, I mean, how could you? I mean, you could never use that as a formulation of an argument, something so ridiculous.
No way, I bring it up for ridicule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if they were to bring it up, you just go on then, prove it. And they go,
Yeah, I would
can't.
love it.
So it's a non-argument to start off with. It's not a real argument.
Oh yeah, they'll never use that in an argument. That's for sure.
Shadows. When you've got a model based on shadows and angles and shadow angles, shadows of angles, and shadow casting angles, there's not much there, right? I think the allegory of the cave was to try and teach people to be aware that the wall's there. Shadows can seem real if you haven't got your faculties around you. And I think the idea of the trivium is to point out to you that there has to be something that gives you an understanding of what those shadows are. You can't just point at things and say shadows. Well, look at them. There you go. There they are. There has to be an understanding of the grammar, i.e. the identity of the objects that you're talking about. They're not there.
Yeah, that cave thing is sheer genius.
And the entire thing, the Republic, the allegory of the cave is just one small part of it. There are other parts. I think the bit that just leads up to it is teaches you about excluding middle and plenty of other things too. It's deep.
Yep. The way he talks, the way he asks questions, and then he gives his opinion, and
that's what does it for me. SE2. It's the question asking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's freaking genius, man.
Yep.
And I was never into this Plato, Aristotle. When I was younger, oh, come on with these freaking thinkers, you know? That's the attitude I had when I was young.
I always wanted a robe. I thought that was one of the best jobs ever, that.
A robe, huh?
A robe or a toga.
Yeah. Just going round thinking. He's like, can you just do a bit of thinking for us? Exactly. Yeah, all right, I can do that. Go. Yeah,
here's your salary.
No problem.
A toga and some laurel leaves, and off you go. Go do some thinking.
Yeah. And it's funny today. That's how they control us. They have think tanks. Yeah, I don't think like that, like I used to when I was young anymore. I assure you about that. imagine, like you said, Bev, there is a job now that if you're up in the establishment there, you can walk in, sit down, and they'll tell you, okay, how do we convince the public to do X, Y, Z, for example? And that's your job for the day. Have your coffee, and you start thinking.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yep.
Somebody else said as well, like, who taught you to think? That's one of Buster's favourite ones. Who taught you to think? The answer always is no one. You had to learn that yourself. Now, because you learned that yourself, are you correct in the way that you're doing it? Could it be formulated better? Who knows? And if you've
It's also age has a big part to do with it, I think. Like if I was to hear myself talk now when I was 20 years old, I'd probably think, who's this idiot talking? Maybe, I'm just saying, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know whether I'd understand myself. Or don't know whether I'd take the time to understand earlier on. I think it's just too hectic. You know, you need to have time to calm yourself.
Yeah, I think part of that is right, SE, about age, but that's why I think it's so important to go through what Raven went through yesterday and going through the trivium and all that, because kids nowadays, and I say kids, I'm in my 50s, so to me anybody under 30 at the least to me has zero chance of really understanding what thinking is, because they're punished if they do think. If they start critically thinking, asking too many questions, you're punished. You're punished on social media. You're punished at the workplace. You're punished in school. You're punished. So there's no incentive to think.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I remember when I asked my teacher, why is cat spelled with a C and not a K? No answer. Because that's the way it is. And I was deemed like a troublemaker, sort of, in her eye.
Because they never gave you a proper answer. You're now at the age you are, still asking that question, right?
Yes, I haven't gotten an answer up
That's
until
the funny
today.
thing.
Yeah,
exactly.
Exactly, guys. I still haven't got an answer till today.
But it's that teacher,
question.
right? It's that teacher's fault that you're saying that, right?
Yep.
That's interesting. That's the sort of thing that you know. If you'd have had somebody would have give you a proper answer, you may not be using that as a statement today. Logos.
Yeah. But could it be that there is no answer? It's because just somebody decided? I put that question to anybody here on the panel, anybody on YouTube. Why is cat spelled with a C and not a K? Give me a logical reason why. Sorry to do this, but just somebody decided we're gonna spell it with a C for whatever reason.
It just is.
Exactly. Now, if you're somebody like me that questions that, you're deemed like an outcast, I guess. I don't know.
You're a troublemaker.
A troublemaker, yeah, that's it. That's why schooling fails. They have no answers. They just tell you things, and when people ask questions, there's no answer to that.
And they can't be okay with saying, I don't know, which is the other thing that gets people really upset around here when they try to come around here. When they get into, their earth must be a certain shape, and we say, we don't give a shit. We don't care in the least. We don't know and we don't care. Doesn't matter. They get really upset at that stuff. So saying you don't know is not acceptable. So they'll never tell you. I don't know why cat starts with C and not with K.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why it pisses me off. Yeah, just say you don't know. Had she said I don't know, I would have said, okay, ma'am, thank you. I'll look into it. But you don't just tell a kid that's asking a question, because that's the way it is. Sit down.
Yeah, tough ones. All about words and all about how we use them. Right, the actual structure of how the cat is, I suppose, to go with Raven, he would say, because that's the agreed upon thing. Right, it's a feline that they're the symbols we give to give meaning to that thing. It's all it is, isn't it? It's just that those are the words that we use to do that. But I mean, it has to be agreed upon, and they have to be formed to make a structured understanding of the identity of the thing that we're talking about.
How about if you don't agree upon it, like me?
Well, you still know what the actual thing is that we're talking about, how you formulate the structure of the sounding of the word that you're going to use.
Yeah, but that still is not an Go ahead.
So that you can come to terms.
Right. We can come to terms that we spell cat with a C. Agreed.
Yeah.
And I could agree with that, and we can know what a cat is, but that wasn't the question. The question was, why? Since we have a perfectly good letter that makes the K sound, it's actually called K. Why do we assign a letter
I was
that makes
thinking
the
about
C
that,
sound?
though, because most of the times when it's at the front, hello, Kevin's in the chat. Most of the words like knee and knack have it's silenced. So I would say that particular letter wasn't around. But I mean, I don't know. I'd just say that because I would definitely use that letter if it was me.
The trivia I purchased starts out with a dictionary at the beginning, going over each letter and the sounds and how they were formed and how they relate to why the word is sounding that way. So I haven't gone through the whole thing yet, so I just wanted to offer that little bit of information to you. But yeah, it starts out going through every letter, even the STR sounds, the SL, SP, all those Q, how these words were originally formed. I was looking through this briefly to see if they mentioned anything about the cat under C or K, and they didn't, because I was hoping to give you an answer there, SC, but I can't. Sorry.
I know, bro. No, there's no answer. They say things like what Bev said. Well, it's in front of an A or this or that, but that's just somebody agreed to make it so. Like another example, pharmacy, right?
Yeah.
PH, right? It's spelled PH.
Right.
Now, when you ask why pharmacy is spelled that way, it's kind of the same thing, but there's sort of like an explanation. They say because it's a medical thing or whatever, scientific. At least they have something for it. and still doesn't make sense. Why would a PH make an F? Under what, like, what brain came out with that? Like, it makes absolutely no sense.
I actually never thought about that, but that is very curious. That is.
It is interesting that you bring it up, as me having, like, English is not my first language. I have a first language of my own, right? And we use K-A-T-T for cat. And we use the F for pharmacist or pharmacologic or all of these words.
There you go, Essie. You just live in the wrong place.
That's what it is. You live in the wrong country.
French Canadian.
I knew something was wrong with me. Yeah.
So leave it to the Scandinavians.
yeah.
Complete logic. But I mean, he was telling us earlier that they have two different.
No, yeah, I'm on SE's side.
We won't talk about that. Don't talk about it.
I'm mentioning it to help SE's argument because,
Yeah, it makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, I think the English language, as we know, it's all of them. It is that I think they're trying to put everything together to reforming the language of one. Dangerous things when you think about it.
Yep, they make things that are not so, and people just accept it. I'll give you another example, then I won't say it anymore because it's probably annoying. How do you spell Xerox? How have they convinced you to spell Xerox?
You mean with the X?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
They've convinced you in the same word. You want to talk about dialetheism? Here's an example. They convinced you in the same word to pronounce the same letter differently.
There's got to be some occulted purpose to that we're not aware of.
Yeah, there has to be something because it's not right.
No,
It'll be dialetheism in word form.
Yep, it's definitely dialetheism, like right there in your face, Xerox.
There'll be somebody with some clever meaning behind it, wanting to say that, oh, you don't know that.
Yep. Oh, yeah. I have no doubt. There is an explanation.
I don't think zero with an X then, because it's the same sound.
Yep. Why don't you spell Kate with a C? And you spell it with a K? There's so many. I can do this all day, so I'll stop with this because it's a pet peeve of mine. Let's change the subject. I can do this all night.
Yeah, you can have
First Genesis when you're needing.
Yeah.
I've got an interesting one to that essay.
Oh crap! I didn't know you.
In the Welsh language, pharmacy comes from Ferioch, which is double F, and Ferioch were the sorcerers, and they were the ones that had the recipe for the magical brew of the Owen of Inspiration. So the Ferioch lived in the mountains. They were mysterious sorcerers, and that became that became the derivation of Ferioch, which turns into pharmacy in the Welsh language. So it's a strange word right the way through all of the different languages by the seams of it.
Cave-dwelling sorcerers.
Yeah.
Damn.
Wow.
So that's the Ferioch for you. And supposedly they had jet black eyes and no sclera, no white. Lived up in the mountains of Snowdonia somewhere.
I always looked at it like they're the ones who can see the shadow casters and the shadows and
Yes.
the people watching the shadows, and by necessity they can't be part of the society. Then they have to live on the fringes because they will never be understood by that society. They can't take part.
That's true.
That's why they live in the mountains. That's why they have this hut in the woods where they grow their herbs and mushrooms and etc.
Interesting.
And they're like the guy, they're wizard, right? They're the one you turn to in a crisis because they actually have kept hold of the truth value.
Yes. Yeah, they kept the knowledge of the medicinals, of the herbs, of the magical brews, of the inspiration. But they weren't people you wanted to mess around with. You know, they were on the, like you were saying, they were on the outskirts. They were on the edges of the community. Otherworldly people type of thing.
Were they like healers and stuff
There
like
could be,
that?
as far as I'm aware, there could be,
Yeah,
but they weren't.
They're like the story of Pocahontas, right? They're talking to the animals. They're the healers, the old ancient ones talking to the trees and talking to nature, like
very animistic.
Where the idea is that modern man is deaf, can't talk to nature. It's not that nature is mute, it's that man is deaf. I don't remember which philosopher said this, which is obviously completely wrong. We're just not listening, right? But these people are listening. They are understanding. They're looking into nature to find answers.
I mean, the whole of that mythology fascinates me and would be interesting to somebody like Buster and that, because it deals very much into harmonics and vowel sounds and creation being spoken forth from the expression of voice and sound and vibration. It's the Brythonic mythology is fascinating if you can get into it, but it meshes with everything else. You know, you talk to anybody and it all comes down to vibration, harmonics, sound, creation. So interesting
It's
stuff.
really mystical really quick.
Yeah, it does.
Because having a conversation, you're conjuring images in each other's mind.
Yeah.
And so what is that image that you are conjuring?
And there's something strange about this F sound, because you know, PH, F, double F. You know, sometimes it's a one F, sometimes it's two Fs, then it's an of, then it's an off, then it's a f. You know, it's extremely fascinating subject.
We have that very problem interchanging F and V.
That's right, yes.
Language. Yeah, you can spell a name either way, but it will be pronounced equally the same.
Yeah, that's how it is with the Welsh language as well, with the V's and the F's. You know, so there's a lot of crossover, particularly with these Northern European languages, isn't there?
Yeah, it is interesting.
So it's like only coming on the latter part of that conversation, so I don't know what the rest of the conversation was. Just putting in.
Yeah, interesting. Like the German W turns into a V, doesn't it?
It does.
And you have Fs turning into Vs. It is how the words are formed. Obviously, have got to have meaning. But the within logic is the understanding of what you can do with the words. It's there's going to be some good discussions and some good times coming forwards at the minute.
I think some of the explanation will come down if we can get into things like cymatics, and you're looking at the the vibratory patterns these sounds make, and I bet you that you'll see within the patterns created, if you use cymatics, I bet you the patterns reflect the similarity between the V's and the F's and the PHs and all the rest of these. And somehow that's what's being expressed in the language that we've probably lost.
It's interesting with runes, the Old Norse runes. They're all formed within a circle. I don't remember how many points there was around the circle. Was it 6? Was it 8? I cannot remember. But this setup of points on the circle, when you draw lines between them in different ways, they form all of these different letters that are the ancient Norse runes as we know them today.
Yeah. I think with the work I did with the Welsh language, it starts with like the 3, which is like a tri-vesica Pisces. So it's like a vesica Pisces, but including the 3, and then from that you get the 7 with 1 hidden vowel. So you do get 8 because the 1 is a hidden one, because it can be both an F and a V or something like that, if I'm remembering rightly now. So, it grows from the trivesical, which gives you 3 vowels. Then you get to your 7 vowels and 1 hidden one, because it's a changeable one, which would give you the 8, which could tie in with this, with your what you were talking about, couldn't it? So okay, with the 8 circle idea. Language is fascinating, and sound. It all.
Biblically speaking, it said that prior to the Tower of Babel being destroyed, it was all one language, and the languages were dispersed afterward. Does anyone know what the language was prior to that? Because I'm not sure.
I don't know. Would it have been Babylonian, or is Babylonian what came afterwards?
I'm gonna have to find out if they have that information.
But they would have had to have taken that language away from people, right?
Is that the Sumerian language, the cuneiform?
Yes, because it was to wasn't it to prevent communication? Didn't they disperse the languages so that people could not communicate?
Yeah, the scattering of languages so people couldn't communicate and
work together
and be so evil. Yeah.
And the Bible also says to prove all things true. It doesn't say prove all things true to everybody else.
All right. That prove things true to yourself. Is that what it's saying?
Yep.
Yeah.
You should prove all things true to yourself. Correct. It's my interpretation.
Yeah, that's it. And give glory, right? Don't glorify yourself with it. Give glory.
Exactly.
It often mentions tongue, right? Meaning the frequency that comes out as voice or in words.
Yep.
From my reading of a lot of mythology, it all seems to talk about the basis of reality being vibration. Has anybody come across a mythology where it's not in some form of vibration, some form of music, harmony, voice, sound, vowel?
You mean the beginning, the explanation of the beginning?
Yeah, because even in the Bible, he talks about he spoke the words, didn't he? Everything seems to be vibration.
Exactly.
Yep. Well, just look at cymatics, and if that doesn't convince you, I mean, I'm not saying it's how it started or I know, but I'm just saying it's a big thing that, like, definitely.
No question about that.
Yeah, it almost demonstrates the building blocks of reality, doesn't it? Really, when you look at what what vibration can form the patterns and the beauty. It's within it all.
Is it sheer coincidence that in the Bible it said, "And let there be light," the spoken word, and we have cymatics, and either they knew what they were talking about back then, or there's definitely a link there.
I agree, S.E. I agree.
Fascinating stuff.
It is.
And it all comes from the fact that we found geometry. Geometry led us back to logic, and people didn't understand logic. So now we're at the trivium, and we're back down to talking about words.
Yeah. And the importance of words.
Yeah.
Of sound.
Yep, and the realm we're in, like it's like a gear system. You look up, right? You want to talk about lights? The only thing we can say about the lights in the sky is they keep reoccurring. It's a pattern.
Yeah.
Shout out FPV Angel. He thinks it's like a machine. And I won't disagree with that.
No, it's some fascinating work.
Yeah, who knows?
There's a mechanism somewhere. Whatever you decide the mechanism is, there's definitely something behind this. You don't end up with such things that keep running through the similarities like we get in geometry, sacred geometry, Fibonacci. You don't get that to occur from random things. It doesn't happen.
Yeah, when you see nature in the Fibonacci sequence and how the shell and all those shapes reoccur, there's no way that happens by chance. No way. Well, you can't convince me of that anyway.
I'm on board there with you. There's absolutely no way that's random. Yeah, absolutely not.
Yeah, I'm on board there as well. The whole sacred geometry thing is fascinating, and these numbers that occur, these ratios, these transcendentals, and how it all fits together, and how you look into nature and you can see it. It's manifest right in front of your eyes, if you can but see it.
Shows you that logic is inherent in nature. We've heard that quote before, right? The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. It is Euclidean. We had this discussion with Brenda. I was reminded of it last night. It is a very interesting topic, definitely.
Yes. I mean, just look at Leonardo's Vitruvian Man, and you look at the dimensions of the human body and how it all fits in with all of this sacred geometry, just demonstrating that we are sacred beings within a sacred. This is the way I see it, anyway. Within a sacred universe, it's there for everybody to see. Wonderful stuff.
Yeah, I love these conversations. My favorite.
Yeah, and they're so easy to have, right? Everybody that's here is just willing to have that conversation. You want to come in and get involved in it? Just come on in.
You think Euclid had these conversations?
I hope so.
Absolutely. With his boy. Absolutely.
Well, I think Euclid was a group, right? There's no one man could have done that sort of stuff.
I heard you say that.
It needs a group just like this, just like we've got here now.
Yep.
Don't they present him as a single individual, though?
Well, yeah,
Yes.
they always
far
like
as
to
how-
say everybody's that like Einstein didn't do it on his own, Newton didn't do it on his own, Euclid didn't do it on his own.
You can't do it on your own. It's a group.
Yeah, that's the thing about logic, right? Not one man can do it.
Look, you have to be able to bounce your ideas off others.
Yep.
In order
The sum,
for them to grow,
the sum
right?
total. It's the sum total is more than the parts. You need the parts, and you get something bigger.
Makes
The way it works.
This was
Ooh,
the
how
dot
could-
of. Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, how could anyone not join with this conversation? These
I saw you popping.
these are the kind of conversations you got to be having, aren't they? What is it and how does it work?
Yeah.
That's what they're trying to
Yeah.
stop. That's what they're trying to stop you looking at.
It is.
They want to tie you up with debates all the time instead of figuring out how it works and what it is.
Yeah.
They're trying to stop you exploring it and using all the data. Yeah, I mean, you look at the data and it works in our favour. It never works in their favour. They've got absolutely nothing.
That's why there's silly arguments and the non-arguments and time-wasting discussions about irrelevant things. I mean, that's what it's all
Debates.
about.
Yeah, it's just tying you up with nonsense.
That's the trap.
That's why I never entertain it. I started banning them on site years ago because they're just there to waste your time, and all they're doing really is trying to put off newcomers from looking a bit deeper. That's all they're here for.
Yeah,
That's the best they've got, isn't it?
That's why we're here. People like us, right? We want to engage, but the trolls may not be trolls because of the way that this system's set up. They can just be curious people. It's tricky to work out what it is you're dealing with. I know most of the people in here have been hardcore trolls in the past. I think we all have. There is a realization that at some point the troll isn't fun. Well, it's only fun for a while. There's a time where you have to get real, and then how do you pull that back? How do you reverse that trolling that you've done before? It's hard work to get to release it.
Yeah. I did some fascinating work on a bit of sacred. Well, I class it as sacred geometry based on my interest in the Welsh and the Brythonic. There's a particular aphorism that I work, and it basically states, we are the sum total of all that has gone before, and we are the seeds of our own becoming. And using that as a system, I'd have to go through it to show you how you can build what you can build from that, and it's a fascinating piece of geometry, or sacred geometry, that I call it sacred geometry, around that fits in with certain symbols that are used within Welsh, within Cymru mythology. But that idea of that we are everything that has come. We are the manifestation now of anything that's come before, and that from here on out from us, we are the beginnings of everything that's going to manifest from us that goes outwards, and how that can be then represented in sacred geometric form. So I'll have to put it all together one again sometime and present it. It's just really interesting. I find it really fascinating. And I think I'll collect all these kind of when people come up with like really fascinating ways of interpreting things, I just like to collect them all and play around with them and see what happens.
We can help you with that as well, the sacred geometry, because that's what we're good at decoding, and what it's relating to. That's what we do in our research. We've been doing that for about 5 years now.
Yeah. And I've found out, and I've developed some geometry from that I've not seen anywhere else, you see. So it'd be interesting to present it and see if other people have seen similar pattern within that. that just comes from that saying, that one particular aphorism that that I came across during my work with the Brythonic stuff, with the Welsh Welsh culture.
What I started doing was when I was listening to someone presenting something.
Yeah.
I started when I started decoding all this myself. I thought, right, I'm just going to decode it with my own eyes now. I've got my own thoughts and
that's it.
Things going on, how I think it works, and I knew they were lying. So I thought, right, I'm going to mute the guy and look at what he's presenting, and I'll decode it with my own eyes. So I'm not even listening to the person talking, because that's just their interpretation of what they're seeing. And I've got a better idea now what it actually refers to.
That's what I basically did, and I created something that was really meaningful to me, and I'd never seen that. Nobody else had ever presented it the way I presented it to myself.
Yeah.
And to me, that's a bigger truth to me than taking on the truth that somebody else has given me.
Yeah. Well, if you're listening to someone else's, work, you probably haven't got much. You can't be having much confidence in your own work, or it's maybe incomplete. So you have to look around. But we stopped doing that years ago. We said, we've got to work this out ourselves, because we can't trust the information that's coming in.
Yeah.
But you can't reject. If it's genuine, but that's where I went down the same route as you. Though I thought, well, okay, we can't trust what's going on in our times. What were the ancients teaching? You've got to go and look at what the ancients teaching and start there. What were they all teaching? Now, are we all going to call our ancestors idiots and liars? I'm not. I can see exactly what they were telling us.
But then you've got to be careful not to chuck the bathwater out with the baby, or the baby out with the bathwater, haven't you? Like I still listen to what people have to say, but I frame it in. I look how it fits in with what I've already done, and how it meshes, and what truth I can get from that.
That's the hard part, really, isn't it? Wording what the ancients told us into more modern terminology, because you've got to remember they're trying to describe things they probably didn't even have words for when they were looking at how this works. As far back as you go, you can see the Geopetron hieroglyphs. They're telling you the story of this world's mechanisms, basically, how it works and how the seasons work. It's all there in glyphs. They've always known, as far back as you can go, even to cave paintings, we've always been intelligent and known what this world is and how it works. That's what we're seeing. So that goes beyond man's written books. So you can't trust what's in written books, really.
No.
Or you have to go in there with what the knowledge you just gained, and then reword it, to match that knowledge. You now know what the truth really is. Because there's half truths in some of there has to be half truths in their work for it to sound convincing. They're hiding what this world is and how it works, and that's where they trip up. They have to start making mathematical excuses for it all, don't they? Whereas, if you know how it works, or have a better understanding of how it works, or like the likes of Walter Russell science, you can see how it works and exactly what it is they're hiding. Yeah, interesting times, isn't it?
Interesting.
But yeah, I enjoyed your presentation last night. Excellent presentation and a good start.
Thank you very much.
It's how everyone needs to go. Start again. Everyone just start again. Throw it all away. Start again, and then you'll start to see the truth for yourself. That's what we had to do, and I recommend everyone does the same.
Rebuild.
Great words, FPV. Great words.
You'll find you learn a lot more from the ancients than you will from anyone in modern times, apart from your likes of maybe Tesla and Walter Russell and a few other great names. Depending what fields they were working in, you'll find some of them were working in fields, but it seems quite compartmentalized when it comes to working with a world model. Some of them are breaking down little pieces of things, but they don't see how it fits in the big model. And that's how a lot of our scientists end up working. Unless you come across someone like Walter Russell, who does have a world cosmogony. He built his own world cosmogony on what he understood of how it all works.
Even so, you also don't need to accept everything that you can take the bits that resonate with you, can't you? And you don't have to take the complete worldview of one particular person if it doesn't gel. But there may be gems within there that you can take on.
Yeah, you can never discount all of it. We put a lot of things on our shelves in APM. We put things on the shelves and say, right, we can't answer that, or it doesn't make any sense yet. We'll keep hold of it and see if someone else connects it in the future. And that's what we do. We've got a lot of things on our shelves sitting there waiting to be connected up somewhere. If you haven't got an end point, then we don't really pursue it because you're just chasing ghosts. So you just put it on a shelf and maybe it'll pop up again in the future and you might have an answer for that. But it's never been anything serious. They're just things in history that pop up and you think, well, yeah, that happened, but what caused it? And you haven't got a cause for it yet, so just put it aside and carry on. You won't get all the you won't get all the answers straight away, but they are there. You just got to do a lot of investigative research.
A few more dots down the line and it might all come together.
That's what's been happening with us. You can go one thing to another, and then big lumps of the picture start forming, and you can start explaining their science better than they can. Like that's what One Conscience does in our group. She looks at their science, look at what we know, and we'll word it correctly to show you what it actually means. But that's jumping ahead a bit. You've got a list to come. You've got a list to come, really. You're going down the route we went, years ago. But I can jump in and give you advice on some of our decodings, our research, and what certain geometries actually mean. Some people have got a name for them, and some things come with a story. That story might not be genuine, and if it isn't, we can actually see where and why they would word it differently to try and hide something now. So we can guide you that way with the knowledge we've gained. So yeah, interesting times ahead, guys.
Sounds it.
Yeah, I cannot wait, especially with this group of people as well.
Are we still live, or is this?
No, we're still live, but I was just about to end it. Invite everybody into Discord because we're going. It's obviously after hours type. Slowing down a bit. Everybody, come on into Discord. I'm going to end it with a Buster song right now. And then tomorrow we are going to be going and doing gaming free-for-all. So perhaps you might want to just watch some gaming while listening to the usual chat. It's going to be the live chat. Will be gone and we'll be gaming, but the same conversations will be going. Just a different thing for you to look at.
Is this a mix of reality and non-reality?
Yeah, just random conversation. Just better pictures to look at. So has anybody chat or in the Discord or on the YouTube? Anybody want to bust a pick? Remember we went with one chance on the way in today. So anybody want to sign out?
I'd like to say this was a great conversation tonight. I really enjoyed it.
I would like to say as well, yes, many more to come. This is hopefully because the trolls are leaving us alone now. We get a chance to have these conversations, and these are always the best conversations. This is what we've been dealing with, and now they've left us alone. People will be able to hear what we actually do and what we are doing.
And it's a comforting place to be where you can talk to people and not hear screams or yells. You just hear responses to what you have to say and keep it going. It's a great place to be. I want to thank everyone here very much. I really appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your contribution as well.
I don't know. I'm greatest speech. It's got to be tonight. Greatest speech for Buster. Now, Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Appropriate.
Yeah. So please,
Stockholmism.
Yeah, please join us tomorrow. We will be taking. Obviously, this is the new conversation. Most of what we do, we'll try and keep it a little bit towards logic, trivium, and geometry, but they're all going to meld together. They all are. They're all after what we're after. It's just conversation. So if you want to come and get involved, Discord's where it's at. If you want to just listen, fair enough. Come and join us tomorrow. Buster Music playing us out. See you tomorrow.
You have the love of humanity in your hearts. You don't hate, only the unloved hate. those who can hear me, I say, do not despair. The misery that is now upon us is but the passing of greed, the bitterness of men who fear the way of human progress. The hate of men will pass, and dictators die, and the power they took from the people will return to the people. And so long as men die, liberty will never perish. Let us fight to free the world. Let us all unite. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men, machine men with machine minds and machine hearts. Let us fight to free the world. Soldiers, don't give yourselves to brutes, men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, or what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machines, you are not cattle, you are men. You are men. Let us fight to free the world. You have the love of humanity in your hearts. You don't hate, only the unloved hate, the unloved and the unnatural. Soldiers, don't fight for slavery, fight for liberty. In the 17th chapter of St. Luke it is written, the kingdom of God is within man, not one man nor a group of men, but in all men, in you. You, the people, have the power to create machines, the power to create happiness. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure. Then in the name of democracy, let us use that power. Let us all unite. Let us fight for a new world. A decent world that will give men a chance to work, that will give youth a future and old age a security. By the promise of these things, brutes have risen to power, but they lie. They do not fulfill that promise. They never will. Dictators free themselves, but they enslave the people. Now let us fight to fulfill that promise. Let us fight to free the world. Let us fight to free the world. Let us fight for a world of reason. A world where science and progress will lead to all men's happiness. Soldiers, in the name of democracy, let us all unite. Let us fight to free the world. Let us all unite. Let us fight for a new world. You, the people, have the power. Let us all unite. Let us fight for a new world. In the 17th chapter of St. Luke it is written, the kingdom of God is within man, not one man nor a group of men, but in all men, in you. You, the people, have the power. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure. By the promise of these things, brutes have risen to power, but they lie. They do not fulfill that promise. They never will. Let us fight to fulfill that promise. Let us fight to free the world. Let us fight to free the world. Let us fight for a world of reason, a world where science and progress will lead to all men's happiness.